Y'all get them likes up, get them likes up. What's going on, Lapeef family? Welcome to Sage Talk with Lee. Sage Talk with Lee. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We got another great show ahead for you guys. But before we get started with the show, shout out to the sponsor, Teej Hanley. Shout out to Teej Hanley. Teej Hanley is sponsoring the show. Make sure you guys are hitting that link that's in the description. Get yourself a free gift. Real quick, am I freezing up? Am I freezing up? Am I coming in a little bit of robotic-like? Let me know in the chat, man. Let me know in the chat if y'all seeing anything differently. What's going on, Amira? Shout out to you. Happy Saturday. Appreciate you. Let's see. We got some of the green gang in the house. I see you, 404 Tyler. Let me go ahead and shout you guys out. Let me know if my camera's coming in kind of funny, you guys. I'm seeing it funny on my end a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Either way, Lee this is his show, so I'll be behind the scenes and I'll see if I can work on that. He's saying laggy SF. I see you. Okay. Well, before we get the show started, I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna bring Lee up in a second. I got a special announcement if you guys haven't heard already, but the Lapeef Network is going on tour, and our first city is Houston. That link is posted to the top of the chat. The date is April 23rd. All the information is available in that link. So make sure that you guys click that link that's pinned to the top of the chat. And it's also in the description. Yes, we're going to have a live Lapeef Let's Talk show. Got a lot of people coming through, such as Crew Season, Poor Man's Podcast, the whole Lapeef Network will be in attendance. Special surprise. You never know who's going to pop up, man. But we are definitely getting lit the entire weekend. So make sure you guys click that link. Once the tickets are sold out, it's nothing I can do. The place does have a capacity limit, and I don't plan on going over it. So make sure you guys snatch your tickets up. April 23rd is a while away. So you have more than enough time and opportunity to get you guys a seat and get to fill a tease, as they say. All right. How you looking, Lee? You ready? Before I do, let me bring up the man of the hour himself, Lee. You're on mute, just so you know, Lee.
Yes. How
Okay,
are
there you
you?
go. Doing. I can't complain, man. I'm here. How about yourself? How you doing?
Doing well, doing well.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with my camera. Every time you go live, man, it's always something. So I'm gonna probably have to reboot and come back in. So if you see me pop in and pop back out, that's only because I rebooted and it defaulted to let me in.
Not a problem.
All right. So man, it's been a nice little journey. Um, you've already had 3 shows and they are epic. Been hearing a lot of great things about your shows. I'm a fan myself. I always have my notepad out with Rilla, taking notes and just learning, man. What you got for us today?
Well, I want to talk about think like a man. And one of the reasons that kind of prompted me to come up with this topic was, I've been listening to quite a few shows for the past few weeks overall, and I've heard quite a few of the brothers when they speak about things, they tend to come from it from the point of view of someone else. Particularly, even though they're speaking in the first person, they're speaking more in terms of what someone else might be concerned about when they're framing their thoughts and ideas. And I just want to try to address that as an overall discussion, and then maybe point out uh, some possible solutions that they can take to try to, one, be aware of it, and then two, maybe take some steps to uh, focus the way in which they speak, or be more aware of the way they speak. So when they're coming across, they can speak more from themselves as opposed to from a second person's point of view.
Okay. I like that. Just so you guys know the format, let me ask you this, Lee. Are you okay with women calling in or is it just men?
I would prefer just men, but I
Okay.
mean, if the topic today touched something that may prompt a woman to call in, for the meantime, I'm not going to have no objections to that.
Okay. I just wanted to set the tone. So towards the
Sure.
end of this conversation, we'll be putting a link out there for you guys to call in. Call in, man. Sometimes I feel as though some people are intimidated to call in for whatever the reason, man. There's nothing wrong with it. Let's have a discussion. You never know who's thinking just like you. So when you guys call in, you're helping the next person. When you guys are bringing attention to a certain subject, you're helping people, man. That's what it's all about. It's about us having these conversations, man. So it got to be had. Well, Mr. Lee, I'm going to leave the floor to you, sir. And I'm going to sit back and
Okay.
take my notes.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome back to another Sage Talk. And as you know, I'm Lee. This topic for me was inspired for several different reasons, but one of the things that I honed in on that made me singled out this particular title, and it didn't come from Steve Harvey or anything like that, but it seems to me at times that men tend to speak from a female centric viewpoint, and particularly there was a show I saw weeks ago, maybe almost a month now, and I think it was one of Anton's shows that dealt with men that get the bag and succeed should they be able to have a second wife or woman or whatever. And many of the points of view from the men were concerning how their woman, girlfriend, or wife might feel, as opposed to just their point of view on the subject at hand with regard to the question. So I said I wanted to kind of touch in on this and see if I can add my voice to this conversation. Now, I'm not here to diagnose what the causes might be, because I'm sure there can be quite a few. What I really would like to do, though, is just possibly offer some solutions on how we can approach a more masculine mindset. I'm sure many times you've heard women complain about how direct or uncaring Kevin Samuels may speak from time to time. I think that really comes from the point because Kevin has a very good sense of his mindset as a masculine man. So when he speaks from a male centric mindset and not trying to couch his thoughts to suit a woman's mindset. And I think that's something that I observe when I listen to some men speak, that they're couching their words to suit how the female ear might pick it up. And I think that's something as men we should not really concern ourselves with at all. As part of, excuse me, many of the points that I want to touch on, particularly today. Last week, Kevin had a show that was dealing with uh, with young men and their stages of growth wherever they may be. And some of the conversation that I heard was somewhat troubling. And one of the things that I think was really problematic was that as a young man in your early 20s, mid 20s, some men were pretty much lost. They didn't really have any way of knowing where they were going, where they were headed, what they wanted to do. And I think by the time you get out of college, whether that's 21, 22, or 24, depending on what your program is, you should at least have an idea. It might not be the career of your life, depending obviously if you're a lawyer, a doctor, or some type of an engineer, that might be a lifetime career. Uh, but if you didn't take those types of courses or professions, then you may wind up working something else in your early years. One of the things I used to do when I taught, whenever I got a new group of students or a new grade, I used to give my students this exam. It wasn't a pass or fail type of exam. It was called the VARK test. It's VARK for those of you who may want to jot it down. And the VARK test is not a pass or fail test. It really screens you out to focus and give you a perspective on what's your learning strength, how your mind works. And V is obviously for visual, A is for audio, R is for reading, and K is for kinesthetic. And basically, understanding how you think could lead into how you would choose a career as well. If you're the type of person who learn by visual and audio, you would probably go into something that's more suited to that, possibly entertainment, movies, editing, music, something like that. If you're a person where you're more centric to doing things with your hand, you might want to become a surgeon. You might want to uh, be an engineer of some sort. But you want to do things that exemplify the strength in which how your mind works. If you do things more by reading and possibly audio, then you might want to go into politics and writing, publisher, or a journalist or something of that type. So it's important, for you to understand how it is that your brain works and how you learn, so you can maximize your your success in what you do. Because you may be intelligent to compensate depending on the career you choose if it's not centric to the way you learn, but it's like running a race with a 30-pound or 50-pound um, weighted ball, you're dragging it behind you on a 20-foot rope. Sure, you may keep up with the competition, but are you going to excel and outperform? So I think it's important that we learn to uh, utilize our strength to our best ability. And another test that I took, and this was when I was much older, when I was already in my mid 30s, and it's something I think Kevin had spoke on from time to time. A moment. Hold on. It looked like my volume went down. Okay. Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Kevin had mentioned, I think, as a manager or as a professional, he had taken some tests to improve his ability as a salesperson. And I think most corporations, when you go into management, they always will do some type of an aptitude test to see what your management style potentially would be. What's your strengths? What's your weakness? Because that is going to gear to how you fit in that particular department or whatever they're looking to promote you to become, right? Tony Robbins offer a leadership style test that I have taken as well. You guys have heard me mention NLP in the past, and that's good to help you understand really how judgments are made, how people can be manipulated, how we tend to just submit ourselves to people of authority, whether it's a priest, teacher, doctors, politicians, so forth, right? Or organizations as well by groups. Well, these types of tests hone in onto you, the individual, and it key for you and identify the things that can make you better. Like the leadership style test is called the DISC motivators. What are your motivators? And the DISC stands for dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. And I think sometimes what I find in a lot of the gentlemen that speak online, and I'm not talking about so much content creators. Some of them are content creators, but some of them are individuals who are making comments from the chat and post up uh, their ideas and thoughts. A lot that I find in terms of the comments come from conscientiousness. They're thinking outside of themselves and speaking on behalf of others, as opposed to coming more from a dominance state of mind for their masculine output or their steadiness on how they see things and without wavering in terms of their thoughts and ideas. So these are things that I think the Tony Robbins test, I'm not sure how much it costs. I'm sure there's a price to it. But if you can do the investment, I would suggest as an individual man, you take that liberty to find out more about yourself, because understanding who you are as an individual, how you think, what's your strengths of learning, those things will help you to be better at whatever it is that you do, either interrelations in business, and definitely more success in the woman that that you're interrelating with in terms of a personal relationship. Now, one of the things that I would say, particularly with men of 2022 and going forward, try not to really focus too much thought about what a woman thinks and feels. Now, I'm not saying this to put any woman down. It's just that if you want to come across clear in your communication, people need to know what your real intentions, where you stand on certain things. And if you're always subjecting your thoughts to how it might come across to someone else, you're subjecting what you really think to how someone might behave based on what you say or do. For example, like when a company may hire you for a position. If you're being hired for a company's position, if you and someone else have the same skills, abilities, and talents, and your resume are pretty much on par, one of the key things that the management will look at is how well do you fit the team? Are you a team player? Are you an individual? Are you a disturbance to the flow of the organization? How will you fit in, regardless of your skills? Because more than likely, they've already evaluated you to know that your skills meet the requirement. But are you going to be someone who will be disruptive? Or are you going to be someone who will be able to play on the team? And I think as men, as a man, when you're choosing a woman, the last thing you want to be doing is concerned with her feelings in that sense. You want to kind of look at it from a very professional kind of way. As long as the woman meets your basic criteria, attractiveness, submissiveness, agreeableness, no children if that's a requirement for you, if she's a friendly or nice type of person, disposition. And for me, intelligence is always a requirement, right? You need to know, especially if you are a high value man, as we have come to know the term. Those are men who are usually driven, uh, focused, great at multitasking, and you would want a woman or a wife that's with you that when you give her something to do or tell her that you would like to do X, that she's not confused, don't understand, and keep coming back to you with multiple questions about what it is you might want her to do. Because sometimes a man would pick, the proverbial dumb blonde because she's so attractive, that beauty can override, the intelligent quotient. And some men would say, forget about it. I don't care how smart she is, as long as she's attractive. But for a long term relationship, that could present itself as a problem, especially if you are a high value man and you move in a certain way and you're good at multitasking, and especially if your wife will be the kind of wife that would work with you or work for you in some capacity. You want a woman who has the ability to think on their feet as well, and that you're not going back over and over trying to clear up the same things. And it's not no fault of her own. It's just that, you chose that type of woman. So now, 3 or 4 or 5 years later, you're going to have to deal with the outcome of that situation. Obviously, you don't want to choose a woman that's confrontational because that can present other problems in public, right? Uh, a key thing that I would say also is, how should I put this? Using underestimation as a strength. And what do I mean by this? Because like women tend to shit test men a lot. They may shit test you to see where you are in a certain situation, or they may push the boundaries in a relationship to see how far or what they can get away with. But in life in general, whether you're dealing with a woman or whether you're dealing with a man, whether you're dealing in a business situation or just socially around the people you know, people will always test your boundaries. And sometimes what I have found is that underestimation could be a significant strength in how you deal with individuals. For example, I can remember when I was in my early 20s, this was back in the 80s. And JR, you might know where I'm talking about. I had gotten a promotion and I went out to Illinois because I had to do my training at the Byron plant. There was a nuclear plant in Byron, Illinois by Commonwealth Edison. And I was living in Rockford. And when I rode into town, I came in on the bus and coming down Alpine Road and State Street, I saw a Toyota dealership and I wanted to get a Toyota. At the time, I was looking to purchase a Toyota Supra. I had already priced it in New York because I was looking at getting it while I was in New York. And I had already looked at was Manhattan Plaza where they basically sold whatever you want. So when I got settled in, found my apartment, got myself together, about 3 weeks later, I went back to the dealership and I came directly from work, me and my buddy. And being that I was on site, you're walking in with construction boots, jeans, you're all dusty, and shirt, whatever you're wearing. So I walked into the dealership, and there were four tall guys standing in front, white guys. They were talking amongst themselves, and they just kind of looked at me and turned away and went back to their conversation. They didn't pay me no mind. So I walked around the place, and there was a young man all the way at the back of the dealership. So he came all the way to the front, greeted me, shook my hand, asked me, "Can he help?" So I asked him. I said, "Hey, where's the black Supra that was in the window?" He said, "Oh, that was special order. The client came and picked it up last week. Blase, blase." So I asked him if he can get me one. He said, "Sure, but I would have to order it." I'm like, "Okay." So we went to his desk, and he proceeded to start to explain to me about the vehicle and what's in it and whatnot. I listened, but I had already know what the car came with and the whole stats on it. So he gave me the price, and matter of fact, the price was like almost 4 grand cheaper. It was like 14.8 or something like that, and in New York it was like 18.4. So I was like, wow, that was a big price difference. So I gave the guy I came in to buy. So I dropped 5 grand as a deposit. We did the contract. A month later, I come back to pick up the car. When I walked in the dealership, all the guys that was up front that never spoke to me before, they were like, "Hey, Mr. Lee, hi, Mr. Lee, how are you? Your car is almost ready." They were greeting me. I was like, "Oh, nice." I'm like, "Where's Frank?" I just ignored them and kept stepping. But one of the thing is when I walked in the first time because I was dusty, as O'Shea might say. Shout out to O'Shea. I appeared dusty. They ignored me. They didn't think I would have the capability of buying anything in there. So sometimes it's good to be underestimated because when you're underestimated, it puts you in a much better, powerful position. It's like in sales, we have a term that we say, you can overpromise and underdeliver, or you can underpromise and overdeliver. And you always want to do the latter, because when people have lower expectations on what they think you're going to be able to perform, you will always shock them when you over deliver and deliver better than expectation. And this is also another way how you get singled out for promotions on jobs and things of that nature. So, one of the things I would say in terms of thinking like a man is really to understand one, your masculinity as an individual, but more importantly, to understand how you yourself think. What are the emotional movers that actually cause you to want to give an opinion about different things? And what I find is that from time to time, as men, we tend to always, especially black men, we tend to be more concerned about how other people will feel or will react to our points of view and what we have to say. And I think going forward, that's something we should really introspect on and look at, and speak more from a single mindedness and speak more from what we have to say, and regardless of what the world might think. I mean, if you're not out there trying to hurt anybody, then your opinion matters. And if it hurts a family member, or if it hurts someone you're in a relationship with, you can always explain the situation later, right? What you meant. But don't couch yourself to speak in such a way that you don't really express your own thoughts, belief, and ideas. So this is really what I wanted to drop on everyone today. I'm hoping that we can have a more lively discussion where more people can call in and I can address specific situations that individuals might want to address or have their points of view on, and we can discuss it. So JR, if you want to go ahead and drop the link at this time, uh, drop the link, and the floor is open for the ladies. If any young lady would want to call in and ask me a few questions, or just state their point of view, however would be fine with me.
All right, I just dropped the link. I think I'm moving around a little
Okay,
bit better. Yeah, I just dropped the link. So
not a problem.
feel free to call in, people. If you have any questions, you want to chime in on the conversation, man, that was some good insight. I like that, Lee.
Well, one of the things I would say too, particularly with men, uh, you know, Henrys and high value men that are walking that path, is surround yourself with like-minded men that are going in a very similar direction as you are. They may not have the same career, but they have a similar motivations in life to succeed. Because when you're surrounding yourself with individuals who are doubting Thomas, people who are always trying to criticize you or are always trying to use others, that shaming tactics, use others to try to keep you in your place, as some people might say. I think, those type of men or women that do that, you really need to stay away from that type of influence as much as you possibly can. And for the men that tend to do that, then obviously those are not men that should be in your close circle. Uh, Keep them as far a distance away from you, and share as little of what your plans are and what you're doing around men of that nature.
Hmm. Somebody in the comments asked if you were married or not.
If I was married, I was married for a little over 10 years. I have two sons.
Okay, there you go. Just coming through to see if I see any other questions in the chat. See, call in, y'all. Call in. Call in. I had to
Yeah,
get
don't
away from people that laugh. Save money. Thank you.
whatever your thoughts and ideas. I think there's no such thing as a question that is uh, not intelligent to ask. If you have a thought in your mind, the only way to clear it up is to raise that point of view
I
and
want to
then have it be challenged.
shout out to the super chat right here from Ricky Webster. He said, "One love, props due." Appreciate that. Thanks for the
Okay,
super chat. The
I'll blow up
lines
my
are
screen so I
open.
can see
Feel
it.
free to call in.
Yeah, come on in, guys. Let me hear your point of view.
Lucky man. All right.
The VARC test that I mentioned, that's a free test, so anyone could download that from online. Matter of fact, I think you can take it online and be scored within a few seconds after you finish taking it. So that would be a good test for both men and women to be able to take. The Tony Robbins leadership style
I
test,
was
that's an expensive. It's a private course, and usually you'll get that if you're working for a company. Most companies will pay for it because they're looking to put you in a position of leadership, so they want to get more feedback as to tested science that they have faith in that works. So whether it's the Tony Robbins test or there's some other form, and there are many out there that different companies utilize, they will put you through some type of evaluation.
I was talking to JB earlier, and
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure people might have had the same thing, but when they seen the thumbnail, they thought you was going to be speaking about "Think Like a Man," Steve Harvey book.
I never even read the book, to be honest. I
Yeah,
thought they would probably get that misperception, but that's another thing too. I like misdirection, so I like the artistry and the image that you use because sometimes people are thinking one way, looking at a situation and have a certain perspective, and then when you come from a whole different way, they were like, "Whoa, I didn't expect this." And that's one of the things of underestimation. Like my grandmother used to have a saying. She would say, "Every eyes closed ain't sleep." And there are times when people would say things and you hear it, but you don't have to respond to it. Those are ego triggers to get you as a man to respond and to get you into conflicts. There's some people who they move through life with conflict and they like to trigger people into conflict. So there are times when someone might say something to you underhandedly, maybe not outward right up in your face, but in your vicinity where you can hear it. And it's kind of like a low blow, but they're doing it intentionally to get you to respond. A lot of times by playing like you didn't hear, immediately people mind go to work. You know what they think? Oh, he's too dumb. He doesn't even know I just insulted him. Things of that nature. Or if it's a man, then they will probably say, oh, he's a punk. He's a pussy. So that then their mind is going to go down that whole storyline and think you're a punk. And they will get bolder and bolder and bolder. And I'm not saying for you to be a pussy, but allow people sometime a little bit of rope to hang themselves. Because one of the things I found when I was young, I used to get into a lot of fights, and I used to be a defender of some of my buddies who didn't like to fight so much. And in Harlem, you get bullies everywhere, right? So if my friend didn't want to fight, I'd be like, I'll fight him for you, So that was kind of my thing, and a lot of times guys would believe, especially if you never reacted to their instigation in the past, they come into the confrontation overconfident. And I'm a southpaw, so when you throw a punch as a right person, you're wide open on the left from me on my left hand. And I used to catch guys out there, and a lot of times that happened because they're like, "Oh, he's a pussy anyway. I'm gonna just mop the floor with him." And when people go into that mindset, when they come into the mindset that you don't meet their standard, their guards is off. Their estimation mentally is off. And they walk into the situation totally overconfident and they wind up getting dropped. And that could be in a physical confrontation or that could be in a mental strategic move as well. And if you don't play chess, you definitely should, as a man, play chess for sure. Because that teaches you how to be strategic, how to lure people in, and that's part of what being underestimated is all about. How to lure people in, how to help them drop their defenses because they get slack, they get careless, they get overconfident. So yeah.
yeah, I think that's great information, man. I had a similar talk to my son, and still to this day, I often have those conversations because a lot of times he's hanging himself because he's listening to respond, which most people do. And
Right.
I'm trying to get him to be able to be a better decision maker. You can't fully be a better decision maker unless you know what you're about to get yourself into. So you have to be able to listen to whatever's happening, whether it be action, whether it be words, just become familiar and then react. And even some conversations, some talks, some decisions, even some of the people that I coach, I say, look, man, you have to you have to control your space, your energy, your peace of mind. You have to be able to control it. Some things require you to immediately respond right there in the moment. I get it.
Right.
But if there are things that you can't make a decision on right away, or you can't handle right away, or you just don't have the time, for an example, if you got 1,000 things going on and you feeling some pressure when somebody asks you a question, you got to have the strength to be able to make that decision and say, "Hey, I can't do it right now, but I can do it within a couple days." That's making a good decision. That's assessing the situation, understanding that you got a lot going on, and you want to be able to perform high when you deliver on whatever it is that you have to do. So you have to be realistic with yourself. That's how you take in what's coming in and being able to assess it and being able to address it properly. As we grow as men, we have to understand that we trying to execute high, man. We're trying to execute the right way, making sure we follow through, making sure we deliver, making sure that we understand who we are. If you got a lot of energy in the morning, be real with yourself. If you got something that requires a lot of time and you got high energy in the morning, take care of it in the morning. Don't wait till late, because you're assessing that situation. You're assessing how it's coming at you.
Well, a lot of times, sometimes that may just come from some people who are procrastinators. They just don't utilize time well and just do things. One of the things I learned early is to do it. It's like when you work out and exercise. Stick to the routine because it trains your mind and it trains your body to do it even when you don't feel like it. And a lot of times people talk about, well, I got to get myself in the right mindset to do it. No, just do it as because you have to do it, or because it's what you do, right? Let it become it's what you do, and then you don't get so much caught up in especially when you're at your peak time of the day. If that's the morning, you can get so much done between 6 and 10 in the morning that by the time 11 o'clock come around, you can accomplish more than the average person already did, for the whole day. So understanding how your body function is also important as well. But I think one of the key things is knowing your ego. I think something that a lot of black men struggle with, and it might not be an outward struggle because it's not something that's obvious to everyone, but it's something that we tend to be triggered by very easily, is our ego. And if someone knows how to trigger your ego, you know, they can definitely take you off your square. Like people might see me as mild mannered now, but I wasn't always mild mannered. When I was younger, I was a lot more aggressive. But my ex-wife, she was excellent at triggering me. And there are very few women that can get under my skin, but she knew how to say the right thing or whatever to just get under my skin, and emotionally I would react. And I had to learn how to overcome that, because getting getting out of control emotionally as a man with a woman is going to end you up in a bad position. So you have to learn how to not be triggered by your emotions and not be triggered by your ego. Women could stroke your ego to make you feel bigger than you are, and a woman could chip at your ego to knock you down to size if she feel you too big for her. You know what I mean? You think you all that type of a perspective. So it's definitely something as men we need to be able to manage better. And in my older age, I definitely have a better control over it. But I think it's from me looking on the situation from the outside in, it's knowledge that I would like to impart on younger men. And when I say younger men, I'm talking, 40 years or younger, that you need to try to develop yourself to learn mastery in some of the areas over yourself, because it'll be much more successful for you both in business and in relationships.
Absolutely agree. Trayvon, I'm gonna get to you right now. You do have a young lady in the back, Tracy. So Tracy, after Mr. Watts is done speaking, then we'll get to you. And there are also a couple questions in the chat that I'm gonna
Yeah, do the
that I
questions
follow.
first.
Okay, we'll do it
Yeah.
first. All right. Ricky's question is, in your opinion, how do women behave around masculine men compared to men who are not so masculine?
Well, now keep in mind when I'm speaking of women, I'm speaking of like pre 2010 women and back. You know, the new breed of women that you guys are dealing with, I have not had those interrelationship with. So keep in mind that my perspective on that. What I would say is that women enjoy being around masculine men because it makes them feel safe. And women love to feel safe. They love to hear masculine men conversation because masculine men are always talking about what they're doing next and the accomplishments that they've already made. And men who are not masculine are always trying to seek the advice or or the alliance of a woman and get her opinion about everything. And that's what a female's girlfriends are for. Men that are trying to be more associative with women, women tend to not look at those men with high respect. They use them for what they can get, but that are more masculine, they respect those men right out the box or right out the gate. There was another question too I saw. I'm not sure if you may have highlighted it, but I think it's Dante Henry. He asked, "How do you think social indoctrination impact the male or black male image, positive or negative?" I will say this: as a man, once you become a man, I would say after the age of 21, you definitely should do some introspection of yourself. You should have already known your environment that you're in, how limiting your environment can be. You know, I grew up in a drug filled area when I came up in the 70s, 60s, and 70s in New York. So, I mean, my mother used to check my arm at least once a week to see if I was using drugs or something. So it was just that bad. So by the time I became a man, I knew I did not, if I was going to succeed, I couldn't stay in this neighborhood. So I think, you know, as a man, you have to look at your situation and then take steps to circumvent it. With regard to the the indoctrination that is put out there, I think as a man you have to be critical about your thinking. It's like when I watch TV, I watch TV for mistakes. That was my entertainment. I look to see when the phone would ring before they get to the scene, when a light would cast a shadow where it's not supposed to be. You know, my mind works that way. I'm not just looking at the movie. I'm looking at stuff to find errors. When I was a teacher, I was the same way. I can find an error anywhere. When I first started working in engineering, I was I started as a draftsman. Within 3 to 4 months, they made me the lead checker. The reason why? Because I would spot every error in wells that was gonna go into construction for this nuclear facility, and that was important. So within a year, I was the person that was doing the sign off on every drawing before it went to fabrication, and that was 35 foreign engineers. These were East Indians, Japanese, Koreans, many of them from Europe, England, and so forth. And the head of the department was an Egyptian guy by the name of Zarif, and Zarif hated me. But Frank Pulio was the head of the whole well, he was the head of the whole department, and he gave me the position. So nothing will go to fabrication unless my signature was on it. So I have an eye that I catch mistakes just like that. So I think, you know, understanding the indoctrination that is being proliferated on the airwaves and TV and movies. If you understand that something is going on, why should you allow yourself to be susceptible to it? I mean, that's just being weak. So I would say in terms of whether it's positive or negative, if it's positive, take some of the positive that works for you, because not all positive things work for every man. Take some of the positives that works for you and use it in your life to get ahead. If it's negative, make sure you're training yourself to make sure those things don't infiltrate your thinking and your behavior so you can limit as much of being controlled by the society at large than, you know, than the decisions you want to make for yourself. So I don't I know the indoctrinations are out there, but I just don't allow myself to be susceptible to them because it's a choice in the end by you.
All right, what's going on, Trayvon Watts? What you got for us, brother?
How's it going, fellas? I
Hey,
just
good
kind of wanted
afternoon.
to.
How are you, Trayvon?
I'm doing pretty good, Mr. Lee. I just wanted to kind of touch on what you were speaking on a few minutes ago about the behaviors of men and kind of how the woman can kind of trigger you, and I think that's a whole um, emotional intelligence issue, right? That we have with men. I've experienced this firsthand myself. I've been married. I was married about 3 or 4 years ago, and you're right. When you spend so much time, I would say with a woman, with a person in general, they get to learn you. They get to
Absolutely.
learn the good things, the bad things about you. They know what makes you tick, what makes you go off, and when you're upset and they're upset, they'll know what to say, they'll know what to do, and it's up to you as the man to keep your composure and keep a level head, and not go down that rabbit hole with them. I've experienced that, and grateful to God that I didn't end up in situations, because of those kind of things.
Absolutely.
I chose to do the other thing, and walk away and be the bigger man. And I saw Steve Harvey on the screen with the topic. He actually made a comment on a show that he was doing. He said, I can't quote it exactly right, but he said lions don't turn around when dogs bark. He said something to
Absolutely.
that extent.
Okay.
So if you know who you are, and um, you're confident within yourself, and you have that level head, you don't need to get involved with that. Like you said, let people hang themselves and let people dig a ditch for themselves.
And
When they're
most of
doing
the
the wrong thing.
most of the time they will. But like you said, it's one of the key things is that women will hit below the belt where a man in a confrontation with a woman will never do that. Men don't betray women's secrets when they have a relationship with a woman, but a woman will use a confident information in a moment of anger to knock you down, to hurt you, because they know physically they can't win the fight. And you're not going to get into a physical confrontation with a woman that you care about, or with any woman for that matter. But when it's a war, when it's a fight, women always want to win, you know. So they're going to say things and do things that's going to trigger you and kind of throw you off balance. And as a man, especially a man who have been married or is married, you definitely experience those things with your wife, right? At some point, either early on or later, because some women mature differently in a relationship. Some women are very confrontational, and some women, it might take them 8 to 10 years in a relationship to realize, and this may come from talking to friends and family, and then they start to realize, well, wait a minute, I don't have too much of a say so, and then they start exerting themselves in a challenging way to kind of satisfy, and they're now not exercising their point of view, they're actually exercising a friend or a parent point of view that they're now bringing into their relationship, their marriage, and then they're espousing those thoughts and ideas and triggering the relationship. So when when you're in a confrontation with a woman, and what I find, what I have done in the past, as I grew and become more wiser with women, is you listen to the argument, and then you state what is, what you're going to
Yep,
do and what you're not going to do. And if it continues, I usually just grab my keys and my wallet and I bounce. And a lot of times they'll plant themselves at the front door and won't let you leave, but you just pick her up nicely and move her out the way and leave. Come back 4 or 5 hours later, and usually by then things is chill.
absolutely. That's all I really wanted to add. I think it's very imperative that you brought that up. A lot of guys need to hear that. So salute to you guys. I'm tuning in all the time, and I appreciate everything that you guys are doing.
All right, no doubt. Appreciate you, Mr. Watts. Thank you for calling in and thank you for the support.
Absolutely.
What's going on, Tracy?
Hi, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, I
Yes, we
can.
can.
How are you, Tracy?
Okay, great. So I'm glad that you asked for a woman's opinion or thoughts. I want to thank you, Mr. Lee. I am definitely going to send this to my sons. I try to reach out to them to chime in, but they're working. Um, One of the things that you mentioned was finding work to suit who you are.
Right.
And that is
How
so
you?
true.
Mhm.
I believe that is so true. I'm a psychotherapist, and I coach people on self-awareness of who they are in regards to different concerns they may have, like anxiety or depressed, things like that. I find a
Right.
lot of people are sometimes working in sales, and you're struggling with depression. You're not successful. You know,
Right.
find a back, you know, a position that doesn't require you to be so outgoing, that also matches your skills. So I know and I believe self-awareness is so critical. The other thing I wanted to touch on was there's a difference between women and men. I don't care what people say. And I have run family groups for men. And one of the topics that um, I have touched on is I would do what we're going to write a letter to our
Family
fathers,
member. Okay.
to know
Hmm.
our fathers. And
Okay.
you would see, and I did it in a correctional facility and I did it in other type of programs. But like 25% of them would not have a problem with it. But like 75% would get up and they would push their chairs and I don't want to do this, da 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 da. And then they would calm down, and then they would, we would start sharing, and a lot of them would say, well, my mother and my grandmother raised me, and I don't need a father, my father wasn't around, and this and that. And then I would, close it with, well, if you're saying your father didn't matter, then what does that mean about you as a father? It can't be both ways. Either
Absolutely.
fathers matter or they don't. And so it was like a light bulb moments going up for them. I realized as a woman that has raised two sons that women cannot teach boys to be men. We can raise them to adulthood, but we cannot teach them to be men. And I learned that when one of my youngest son came to me and he was telling me about the work situation, and it was dog eat dog, right?
Right.
And at that moment, I realized I didn't have the answers to him because as a woman, I aspire to things. Women have aspiring
Ideas.
disposition. Yeah,
Right.
we aspire, right? And men conquer.
Right.
And I had to direct him, like, get some of my male friends and say, hey, can you speak to my son? Can you mentor him? Whatever, whatever. So, male influence is so important. And I've been doing this work, like, really talking about how crucial men are in our environments, in our homes, in our families. And so I'm glad to see these discussions being had. And I just want to say thank you very much.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Well, one of the
Mhm.
things I would like to add to it is that, the men that you counsel and had those emotional reaction is because they have a female viewpoint of mine in which how they have uh, understood things. So when they're reacting in your counseling session, they're not really in their own masculine mind. They're reacting from the female influences around them that have had their points of view about the men that their fathers were and why they believe they weren't there. Because many times the woman is not going to say the whole story. They're going to state the story that puts them in the best light. So they're reacting to their mother. And it's like one day when I had a real bad situation with my youngest son, uh, I gave my ex-wife permission to move out of state because we were both in New York. And the reason I gave her the permission to do it is because I had gotten a position with Wells Fargo to run the operations on the funding department on the institutional side for the mortgage. So I was going to be going to California, and she wanted to go back down to to the south where she was from. and her dad was there and whatnot. So I said, okay, no problem. And I knew it was difficult for me to always see my kids while we were together in New York because we only lived a couple of miles away. And I would see my kids every weekend. I usually pick them up at Friday after work and keep them for the weekend and take them back by 9 o'clock Sunday. But I knew once I gave her permission, it was going to be difficult. And for the first 2 years, it was okay. And then the third year, when I called up my son, I said, hey, I'm going to book the flight. I need to know what day you guys are getting out of school, and I'm going to book the flight. You guys can leave out of Greensburg. And he said something that totally threw me off. He said, I'll stay with the one that feed me.
Mm. Wow.
Now, I know
Wow.
that my son don't speak that way. So I knew where
Oh
that
my
was coming
goodness.
from. So I had a long talk with him. He cried because I told him, I said, if I really want to come and get you, I could just fly in, take my paperwork to the sheriff's department, and the police would just come and get you. Sheriffs come and get you, and we leave. Man, he bawled like a 6-year-old. So that was really when it kind of dawned on me that, you know what, I lost that battle with my sons. But this is
Mm.
how women can influence young men at an early age, that by the time they become a man in their 20s and sometimes even 30s, they're still carrying around a lot of female baggage, and they have a female perspective in the way in which they perceive the world, think, and respond. That many times, if you're keyed in and you're listening, they're speaking from a female centric point of view as opposed to a masculine male centric point of view.
Yeah. Well, I could definitely, I've heard some of that in the groups, and I've also heard a lot of resentments. Being
Yes.
confused about what happened, but just knowing that my dad wasn't there for whatever reasons, you
Right.
understand? And we have to build our families in order to build our communities. But another thing I wanted to add as a mom and as a person in general, and I don't have facts for this, but I just have life experience that has shown me this. From
Sure.
my first marriage, who was a really good person, um, he could never say no to me, and I couldn't respect him. I ended up not respecting him because he couldn't say no to me. And so when I asked for things that were not necessary to our basic needs of survival, and he gave it to me, and then we end up short on the rent, or we didn't really have the money for the supermarket because I got nails, and I got, I
Right.
developed a resentment. I didn't know why.
Well,
My next
I know
husband,
why.
and we
Yeah.
we stayed together to death did us part, but he could say no. He was clear on it, like
Well, I think
no.
that was the difference between one man
Yeah,
who can exercise leadership and another man who did not
right.
understand how to exercise leadership.
Exactly. So I keep trying to explain that to. I've explained it to my youngest son. Listen, you're 20 something. You with this girl. She know you 20 something. She know what you make. She the same age as you. You can't be getting her nails, her hair, her weave, all of that. If you could take her out once a month, you got your rent paid and stuff. Because when you do that and then you come back on Monday, you ain't bought yourself a nice shirt or anything. It's all complaints. It's just more and more
Right.
complaints. Like, you let them know this is where I'm at right now. This is where I'm at. Either you deal with it while I grow, or you find someone else who's at a point to get you all those things. Because a lot of times when we talk about provider, huh? When we talk about provider, we have to understand providing is basic needs. It's roof, it's food. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily you want a $300 weave. That's not a basic weave. Maybe if I have an extra, I could get it for you. But if I don't, I don't. Then find a way to make some money to get it. It's not a basic needs. And so I think
Well,
a lot of times women, we misconceive what provider is and what needs to be provided. I always was so happy knowing I always had a home to come in. I always, my husband was building for the future or investment or whatever. Even though sometimes I did a hissy fit, you know what I'm saying? Because my friends were going to Aruba and I want to go to Aruba now.
right.
But at the end of the day, when I looked, I was like, shoot, we got a home, we got this, we ain't worried about no bills, we ain't worried about no money. I respected him. I could respect him, even though my first husband was a great person, and we're still in contact, and because we have kids together. I just understood that was the divide, and I
Exactly.
always feel, and this is going to be a controversy statement, but I'm gonna say it and get off. When they talk about Adam and Eve introducing the world to sin, I disagree. I think it was Adam because he could not say no. Anyway, y'all have a good day.
Okay. Have a good day.
All right.
Well, I think she's partly right on that statement. It's not that Adam couldn't say no, because Adam did say no, but he didn't enforce it. He didn't apply consequence for that misbehavior. And what he did, if you read it clearly, when God came to him, he denied all responsibility. He was like, "Yo, it's the girl you gave me, man. You gave me this woman. I was doing fine by myself." So he didn't really stand up to making that woman uh, take responsibility for her action and punishing her. And when women misbehave, they have to be punished. It's no different than when a man misbehave in a relationship with the woman. The woman will hold it over your head for some significant amount of time until she is satisfied that you have paid enough to get back into her good grace. And sometimes you might have won her over the next day, but she's going to let it go for a certain amount of time just to like teach you a lesson kind of thing. And I think men don't do that enough with women. Men, they just want to know that the woman is happy. Good. We're back. Cool. All right. I can get some, peace leave, as my man Greg Adams would say. If that's working, they're good. And I think we have to kind of like remove that emotional aspect to when we deal with our women, to make sure that when a woman behaves right, she should be rewarded, and when she misbehaves, she should be punished, and she should know that there are boundaries, and these boundaries are serious and they have consequences. Obviously, especially on the little boundaries, you check them on the little stuff, that it doesn't build up to something big, because they have, like the young lady said, they have respect for you. And once a woman loses respect for a man, it's, you can just count the days before she's gone, or someone else would enter that relationship unbeknownst to you.
What's going on, JB Jedi?
What's up, man? How you doing? How you doing, Lee?
Hey man, how are you? I'm good.
Doing good.
I did
Doing
respond
good.
to your message. I didn't catch it till later, but I did respond to it as well.
I got you. We keep going past each other. I'm gonna make sure I get you on the line, bro. I'm gonna
Don't
make sure I
worry,
get.
don't worry. We're
It's in a
gonna hook
sec.
up for sure.
All right, but so yeah, there's a number of things you touched on that I actually like wanted to get just kind of dive in a little bit further on, right? So
Sure.
one thing that you mentioned is intelligence in a woman, right?
Right.
Like, and I think this is one of those things that I notice is very misunderstood a lot in this space and a lot of these conversations.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times, men talk about how, you know, um, a woman's education does not really make her more attractive, right?
Right.
In terms of like, in terms of, or sorry, does not really increase her value in terms of like attraction value. But I think because of that, when women hear that, there's this apparently this idea that we just want airheads, and that
Right.
we don't
The
really,
dumb blonde
and
mentality.
yeah, and I think that's very funny because I think actually what's interesting is, like I know for myself, I absolutely prefer an intelligent woman, and even I can even say an educated woman. And I find that the disconnect is that a lot of women, and I find this to be more prevalent in the Black community, is that when they are highly educated, they tend to run with that first, right? They want to make that like they want to smack you in the face with it, and then make you,
Right.
almost like they're demanding respect from you, which is a very, to me, is a very masculine characteristic, right? They're coming at you
Right.
with that versus the woman who's just intelligent and she doesn't have to say it, but you can just tell from your conversation with her, right? I can tell, okay, she's read some books. I can, even honestly, based on what she says or somebody she might quote, I'm like, oh, okay, so she's read this author, she's done this, she's done
Right.
that, and she never once had to mention her education, what
Right.
what college she went to, and I find women like that to be the most attractive, right? Because I'm having to find out like how is she so smart. I'm the one asking, what school did you go to? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm the
Right.
one asking that,
Exactly. Exactly.
and
They're not just dropping it on the entry of the conversation.
correct, correct. And so I wanted to see if you could speak on that a little bit more because I think it's so misunderstood in the space that it sounds to me like you actually are in agreement. So I'm just curious, like what would you say on that point in particular?
Well, I think, for me, and especially if a man considers himself to be a high value man or he's moving in that direction, that the intelligence of a woman is highly necessary because as you grow in a relationship, the sex will be the sex and sex become normative after a while. So obviously you'll do things in a relationship to keep the sex alive. But you need a woman that you can chill with, that you can have conversations with. That if she's doing something with you and you leave her to carry out a responsibility, that she's not going to fuck it all up. You need to be able to know that. Like I talk about the ancient Greek societies because it was something that I taught as world history for years. And one of those things is that the men left the women to run basically everything. They were trained as warriors, but the women controlled the slaves, they controlled the shopping, they ran the household, they set the budget for the house. They did a lot of different things. And I think our women have been let loose to just be idle and just look pretty. And I think that's a wasted woman. First of all, if a woman meets your criteria of attractiveness and all the other qualities that you like in a woman, if intelligence is not in the top five or the top six, you're fooling yourself. If you're an accomplished man, you're fooling yourself. And now I've dated a few attorneys, but I've met quite a few that I reject because I remember one time I was uptown in Harlem at this place called Jimmy's. And I was talking to this one young lady and we were having a good conversation. And then she excused herself and I guess she went to the ladies' room or whatnot. And I started talking with one of her friends, beautiful dark skinned girl. And the first thing she started doing was grilling me like I was on a witness stand. What do you do? Where do you work? How much you make? I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm not even talking to you like that. So why are these questions important to you? And she said some snide remark, and I said, "Well, thank you very much." Uh, I don't know if I said Your Honor or something like that, and I said, "Enjoy your drink," and I just went on the other side of the bar where I was sitting down. But there's some women that they like to come off in a power-driven way, and if a woman wants to execute or exercise power over a man, and I think that's something that Black women tend to do a lot, is when they have their education, they try to lead with their education as a power tool over a man. And probably because maybe the relationships they've had with men who are maybe not college graduates and just high school guys or whatever, they tend to have an intelligent quotient above the men in general. And then they use their education to browbeat men and keep them in some kind of subjection in a way like that. So then when they run across someone like yourself, then they find themselves in a challenging situation. And those type of men, they say, are controlling because they're no longer able to exercise control in the relationship.
Yeah, they'll say you're controlling, but then the best one that they say is that you're intimidated by them. You're intimidated, you know?
Yeah. Men have been conquering the world for a long time, and we've seen a lot of blood and guts and death. To think that a woman's education would scare the hell out of us is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, I just wanted that to be like clarified. I think because I do think it's extremely dope when a woman is when she's intelligent, and in fact, I'm actually turned on by that. Like I'm actually turned on by it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I always hate to see when this message is being misconstrued.
Well, another thing too, having an intelligent woman can open doors for you because if you're moving up in the world and you're going into management position, especially once you get to the level of a directorship or something like that, there are certain business functions, there are regional meetings that they have and socials where barbecues and company events, and that's when you get the chance to bring your wife, and your wife get to socialize with the wives of the people who are your peers or some of your superiors. And people are always making judgment call. And men at higher levels, vice presidents and presidents, they value the opinion of their wives. And if their wife says something about your wife, that have an image on you. So if your woman can't have certain level of conversation and don't know how to comport herself strategically, not just she's there to a party and this is what we do at parties. No, that party has a function. And if she don't understand that that party has a function and how to utilize her position as your wife, that can open doors to take you further up the ladder. There could be two people there considering for one position. And guess what? The vice president's wife said, I like JB's wife. She's such a sweet girl. Da 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 da. Guess what? 2 weeks later, JB gonna get a call, come into the meeting. We just chose you to take, the new regional position for operations or whatever, right? And this is how things get done in business sometimes. That's why Kevin says, especially in corporate America, if you want to excel up the ladder, you got to be married. You got to be married.
I know. Hold on, real quick, JB. I'm gonna get right back to you. I know Jedi at work. I want to try to get him in real quick.
Okay.
Sure.
What's going on, Jedi?
Yeah, how you guys doing? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Kind of
Yeah.
muffled, but I
First
can
of
hear you.
all, first of all, Mr. Lee, pleasure meeting you. I just have been watching your the first few episodes of you and stuff like that, and I've just been like receiving a bunch of wisdom, just going back in the replay. Um, but one thing that you said, it's already been kind of restated before, talking about you know, as men talking about with discipline and making sure to hold your frame. And I was having a conversation about this before on other panels, talking about how sometimes women will do everything in their power trying to get you off your square, but yet they still don't want you to go off your square, right? And my point is that when you kind of affirming, saying, when you put down saying, no, when she's trying to basically see where she can manipulate the situation, and basically she's testing you, right? But I think a lot of guys, at least some of my friends, one thing they always kind of get frustrated is just thinking that they never really identify that type of pattern behavior that's being tested when she's doing this, right? Because then they're acting all what we call emotional, acting all angry, saying why is she doing this X, Y, and Z, but really she's just trying to test you, so you should go off your square. And but what you talked about earlier about self-discipline and making sure that we can't, as men, we can't afford to be unstable. My father said this, talking about from the Godfather, Dave Corleone, saying, women and children can afford to be foolish, but men cannot afford to be foolish, right? Because it
Absolutely
costs
not.
too much,
Absolutely.
right?
Well, one of the things
Um,
too, when I find that women tend to test men, sometimes depending on the age of the woman, she may not even know what she's doing and why. She's just behaving, right? It's a behavior that she has, and she's just behaving. But whether it's a forethought or if it's just part of her characteristic, I think one of the things as a man, women know that they like strong men. And maybe it's just like in their nature to probe, to test the man, to make sure they have a strong leader of a man in their family, to lead over them as the head of the family. Even though today many women would fight back against that, inside their nature, they want a strong man. So they will behave and do things to prove you to be a strong man, but then the societal beliefs than what they had, they push back when you demonstrate your strength. So that's a dichotomy that women have to resolve. That's Don't make it our concern as men. Throw that to the side. That's why I believe being a man, being commanding, being authoritative, being decisive, it's important having integrity, because you have to be able to have integrity in which you deal in business, because as you rise up in business, contracts will have, moral clauses. So, and things that you can and cannot do, that you can't get away with if it becomes public. You might do it, but until it becomes public is an issue. And likewise, when you're dealing with a woman, you also have to be integral in how you deal with her. You can't seem double-minded where you stand on one thing today, but then you're loose on another thing tomorrow, but they have same equal consequence. You have to be consistent. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Hey, Jedi, we can't hear you. No, he's not on mute, but for some
Oh,
reason we
okay.
can't hear you.
Well, he took the pieces out of his ear, and I think he was using possibly the mic from his phone. But we can't hear the mic from your phone if that's what you're trying to use.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm gonna let you get that together real quick. Let me just read these super chats real quick. Atisha, that's how you say her name. Any advice to the ladies for being a better woman to a man?
Choose your men better,
Okay.
because the
Uh,
man that you choose as a woman, remember, the man that you allow to have sex with you, once he start having sex with you and you enjoy the sex, you're going to start submitting yourself to him in some way. But at some point, the relationships will take its course. And if that man is not a worthy man to be with you, then you're going to have all kind of problems. You're going to run up your count and you're going to get a lot of baggage. And then by the time you meet a man that's more worthy for you, you're going to have so many emotional and mental issues that you won't be able to screen that man out as being different from the ones of the past.
all right, let me do a mic check, Jedi. I'll come back to him. She has another question as well. She says, "What does Mr. Lee think the qualities of a good woman are?"
I had mentioned, for me, I had mentioned them earlier. I would say quality. Well, I think the one thing for a man that he would want in a woman is attractiveness. Now, whatever that attractiveness for the man is, it's his attractiveness taste. But I think a woman should be submissive to a man. She should have an agreeable nature. Uh, she should definitely be friendly or nice. She shouldn't be rude. I think any woman that speaks disrespectably to men in general, because how a woman carry herself in the public sphere when no one is watching or when her significant other is not around says a lot about who she is as a person too. So it's very important for a woman to be respectful to men in general. I hear sometimes in the public sphere that women say, "Well, I don't have to be nice to you because you ain't doing nothing for me." But you know what? It's men that you don't know that will come to your rescue when you need help. It's rare that it's going to be your man right there unless he's just whipped and he's following you around. But a man that have things to do have things to do, and as a woman, you have things to do too. So if you are nice and agreeable, uh, when you get into a confrontation situation in public, take low. Don't get up in other men's faces. The way in which you behave among men you will get respect from men just from onlookers. So I think those are good qualities a woman can have. I mean, in terms of one thing that I find that is most objectionable for me is a loudmouth woman, a woman that curses a lot. That is a that's a deal breaker right out the door. That I cannot take.
All right. Jedi did have to go. Again, he's at work, so he did put that in the private chat. Definitely, G, I'm going to get to you in a second. And I know JB wanted to respond. Let me just comb through these real quick. Um, Captain said, "Respect to JI Sage Talk, Jedi Mike and JB. Salute. Thanks for the $20 super chat." Um, Nice sometimes says, "What's the reason women fought for equality, ability to work, earn wages, and equal pay, all to still seek a man provision in a relationship?"
Well, I think it was all under the guise of power. Women, like the lady Tracy that said earlier about her comment about Eve in the garden. That was a power move that Eve made. It's about power, and women want power. That's why when I hear the terms that the gender war is over, you know, when a war is over, the loser gets to be submissive to come to the table. They get broken. When the U.S. dropped that first bomb on in Japan, the war was over. Why did they drop the second bomb? To leave no doubt. Because when the conversation for negotiation was going to come, you were going to be in the right mindset, period. And I think as men, you know, at this point, if the war of the gender war between men and women are over and the women still are behaving in a way in which they believe they still have a chance to win, then we have to take it to a different level and use subversive tactics to destroy them in the media, in their public sphere, for choice. Everything that they have gained during the this whole women's right liberation, we should just cut them off at the knees. I mean, as men, we know how war is fought. I'm not talking about go out there and shooting a woman or beating a woman up. I'm talking about using what's the term that they use in war? When they drop the leaflets over countries, what's that called? JB, help me out. There's a term I'm looking for. It's when you sway the public's mind.
You mean in terms of propaganda?
Propaganda, exactly. That's the term I'm looking for. Using
Okay.
propaganda to totally take away their strength. Their strength is in their mouth. Their strength is in their arguments. Take away their points of view so it has no more effect in the sphere of media, whether it's on television, whether it's in one-on-one relationship, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on radio, to the point where when they open their mouth, if they're not conciliatory, no one wants to hear what they have to say. And I think we have to be strategic in how we do that, and we have to be deliberate. And if you're going to fight like that, you have to not care about the emotions of how they might feel and the effect. And will there be casualties in terms of some women who are on our side that may get hurt by it? What I would say to them is when the women who fought for all the things that they fought for that you benefited from, when they cross that line, you never opened your mouth. Had you opened your mouth and fought back, maybe it wouldn't have gone to this extent. So there might be some fallout where some good women may get caught up. But once they come to the table in full submission, then everybody benefits. So it'll just be temporal for as long as men allow it to go on. And I think, going forward, I would like to see men really focus on building and attaining power in America in business, because that's one of the way how you're going to really control the situation. Is a woman's going to have no excuse. Am I going to work for the white man or am I going to work for the black man? And when they work for us, these are the rules. Period.
All right, JB, I ain't mean to cut you off. I know Jedi was at work, but what was your comment that you wanted to say? Hopefully you didn't forget.
Yeah. I'm gonna be quick because I want definitely to be able to go. So just the final thing I wanted to ask you, Lee, is so in a lot of conversations that we've had, in this space, like even on the Lapeef Network, on Anton's channel, um, I've shared some of my perspective on certain things, right? And I consistently get the feedback. I mean, a lot of it from women, but which I mean is different than when I hear from the men. But I consistently get the feedback that I'm too rigid, I'm too strict, and so I find it interesting when I'm listening to you talk, and to me, you're confirming a lot of the because I respect you as my elder, right? I respect you as my OG, and I'm like, okay, let me listen to what he has to say. And some things you've said, they made me challenge my perspectives, right? But then when it comes to these topics, I'm like, okay, so clearly I'm in the right direction. Clearly, I'm approaching these situations the way I should. But I get all this pushback a lot of times where people treat me like I'm the bad guy because of, you're too rigid, you're too strict, you have too high expectations of women, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm
Stop
curious
right
just
there.
with
1 second. Okay. Hold the question right there. You said a
yeah.
key point. You have too high expectations of women. And I think that's something that men need to begin to do, because right now the expectations for women are base. If you're twerking in the street, everybody is cool with that. If you're behaving ladylike, everybody's asking you what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you not acting like us? And I think, don't judge me is one of those statements that said, let me be less. Don't check any of my behavior because I might have to improve myself and act better. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. And so I was just curious. I mean, you kind of already dropped something there, but I mean, I'm just curious what your overall thoughts on why people feel that it's okay to be so laissez-faire, like so just relax about a lot of these situations. Because I do think there's a certain level of um, like the way I put it, like is like this, right? A lot of times I see, for example, I see a lot of guys, and including older men, which a lot of times make me disappointed in them, is when I see older men, for example, they don't have certain boundaries, right? And so they'll let women get away with so much, and Like they don't even, or if they say, okay, if you do this, this is what will happen. Then when she does it, nothing happens. And to me, I feel like that immediately you make somebody, beyond just women, you make people not respect you if they feel that whatever you say the consequences will be, they never get them. And so for me, that's a big part of just my overall philosophy. It's not just with women, is, I need to, one, I hold myself to the same standard that I need to make sure that if I, say something, that I do it, et cetera, et cetera. And so I hold women to the same standard. But then when I talk to a lot of people, you know, it's very interesting the amount of pushback I get from women. I think it's expected, but even from men, sometimes I'm like, why are you upset at me that um, I'm holding women to a certain standard? So I'm curious if you come across the same thing, and what your overall thought is on that topic, because it always kind of perplexes me every time.
Well, I think you kind of answered it already. Those are men that don't set standards for themselves. If you don't set standards for yourself and boundaries, and you don't have consequences for when you break your own standards, then you will allow people to break standards around you, or not to have any whatsoever. And then you are not able to check them because you don't even check yourself. So because you hold yourself to your standards, and then you enforce your standards within yourself and with the people that you socialize with, when people hear your point of view, they're, I don't want to say traumatized, but they're shocked because, like, wow, you are you are odd compared to everyone else who are normal. So they think you're the odd one, when it's all the rest of men who have become so female centric in thinking that they don't hold any standards for themselves, because women don't have standards to that degree. A woman will hold her standards to the standards that her parents have set for her, and to the standards that her her husband will set for her in a relationship. But left to her own devices, women that roll in pack, they have a pack like behavior, and they do all kind of crazy stuff together. So as a man, you have to stand on your square and say what it is. I'm very impressed when I listen to you from time to time, and I hear you speak so matter of factly, because I mean, from a young man, I was very much similar in the way in which I carried myself. And you have to be able to cut men off. I had a friend, we were cool for 10 years. And one day, he did, well, it was leading up. It was many things that was leading up to it, but it came to a point where I had to give him a call and say, "Hey, yo, man, this ain't gonna work out. You need to take leadership in your house, because when your wife starts destroying things that belongs to me, that I let you borrow and I can't get it back, that's a problem. You need to deal with that." So I know what you're talking about. There's some men that just let women walk all over them, and women, they don't mind. They'll take advantage of it until they can move on and find another man better. As long as the situation worked for them, they'll deal with it until it no longer does. And I think this is part of what I enjoy about observing the Black manosphere, is because now as men we're beginning to have these conversations like this, and now we're starting to educate other men, especially men that didn't have any male centricness around them growing up completely, or may even have a negative perspective about how men think, act, and behave, that now they're being checked on this type of thinking and acting, and to reflect and say, wait a minute, am I really a man, or am I just a male person with a female mind? And I think as men, we need to push back on men like that, especially if they're young enough. I mean, if they're in their 20s, they have room to grow and change. If they're in their 40s, they're right on the borderline, because they're pretty much formed in their ways. And some men just won't budge, because they benefit from the way they have lived also. So if they benefit from it, they're not usually going to look to make any adjustments.
All right, go ahead, Definitely G. Appreciate you. Shout out to Jay Prince and Authentic Man. We'll be with you guys momentarily. Appreciate your patience. Go ahead, Definitely G.
First off, how you guys doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, doing good. I'm gonna take a different spin on this, and it's something I wanted to even say on JB's show. I kind of signed off because I needed to sleep and get up in the morning for work. So when it comes to manhood and masculinity, and especially when I'm looking into like religious teachings. I'm not going to make this a religious thing, but like spiritual, understandings of the man and the woman. Usually the man is the sun and the woman is the moon. Sometimes it changes depending on what type of like religion or type of culture that's being teaching it, whoever's teaching it. But usually the man is the sun and the woman is the moon. So
Okay.
to for like manhood to really like be in its fullest potential, masculinity, what it does, it radiates. Everything comes from the inside out. With the feminine, women, they absorb. So everything comes from the outside in. They're influenced by their environment. So
Reflective.
with a man, yeah, and oh yeah, and also it reflects it as well. With when it comes to men really trying to reach their fullest potential, everything comes from the inside. Like he has to believe in himself that he's worthy of the throne. That has to be set first. This is what I want to talk. This is what I want to say on JB's show. It was like he was talking about the self image or the image of the black man. I kind of gave it away. So what we need to work on in the black community is our self-image first. Like if we can't see ourselves, greater than we are now, if we cannot see ourselves worthy of the throne, if we cannot see ourselves, in better situations, it doesn't matter how much encouragement that we give to black men. It doesn't matter how much, compliments. They're still not going to believe it because they view themselves as less than. So what men need to do, and this is what society is doing, is trying to break the will of the man. They're trying to break us down to say, oh man, the girls don't like us, oh man, if I'm not 6 foot, I'm not going to get any play. Or if, oh, I'm not like, going to be making six figures anytime soon. What men need to do is preserve their will to, go out there and become the man that they want to be. See, everything comes from everything comes from the inside out when it comes to manhood. So he has
Oh,
to be solid in his identity. He has to be solid in what he really wants to do, and he has to make that decision. So yeah, I kind of make a different
okay.
scope on this conversation. Yeah.
Well, what I would say first is that a man is built. He's not
Mhm.
born. He's built. There are some men that express certain abilities young, whether they're athletic, mental, or social. Like my first son, he was a very social kind of guy. He could get in any crowd and he can sway the crowd. That's just how he was. And he was also a very confident boy as well. But what I would say is that I think as fathers, we need to identify the characteristics early in our children, especially the male children. Because if your child shows a weakness in their self confidence and how they perceive themselves, and they need to be liked by others for them to be able to express themselves and their points of view, you need to develop that. And one of the ways in which you can help develop that is by having your child do things that they can accomplish and succeed at. Accomplishing things and succeeding at things builds one's self-confidence. And as you continue to grow and succeed at things, it adds to your sense of self in which you are capable. And capable men, and this is something that I believe is in all men. If you are capable and you succeed at the things that you do, people will just say you are capable and you are successful. The black part comes after because your skin is your skin and you wear who you are. So I wouldn't focus on being this type black man or that type black man. Just be a man. As long
Mhm.
as you're a man and you wear your masculinity and you are intelligent and you are effective at what you do, you know, uh, you will be respected as a man. I don't think one of the things you have to understand, because I hear the talk a lot about alpha males and beta males and things like that, and I don't think they have taken that conversation to its full extent. Because if every man was an alpha man, nothing would fucking get done. Because alphas lead, they don't build. The betas build. The beta is the guy that's in the sewer, building the drains. He's paving the streets. He's erecting construction. He's building buildings. He's in the middle of the ocean drilling for oil. If you look at apes and if you look at wolves, The alpha is always being challenged by a beta. And once he beats the alpha, he becomes the new alpha. Alphas are formed. Not every man is born an alpha. Alpha is formed. Not every man remains a beta. Betas can become alphas. You just have to have the will to challenge. But betas are men who build. If you had a room full of 10 guys and all 10 of those guys were alphas, they could come up with an idea, and then when they finish the meeting, they slap their hand on the desk. If nobody is going to work, who's going to bill it? Because the alpha show ain't going to bill it. The alpha is going to be project manager on the construction site, VP of the company, CEO of the company, supervisor, manager. He is not going to be the guy down on the ground doing the physical labor, whatever that is, whether it's in an office or whether it's on a site. So I think guys used to have we used to have a saying on Wall Street: if everybody was rich, there would be no rich. They would just be normal.
All right. Lee, I
Yeah.
don't know if you got
Well,
to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh yeah, this is the last point actually. On the last part that you said, Mr. Lee, I'm going to have to disagree on you out there, and
Which
this is
part?
just my own perspective. The
Which
alpha
part?
and beta saying like
Okay.
the
Sure.
alpha beta dynamic. I don't necessarily believe that being an alpha male, if we were using those terminologies, means that you're always in the front. Like just based on what I've looked up and what I've researched and understand about masculinity, actually a man who's really in his complete masculine is usually free to do whatever he wants to do. So it's not necessarily that he's always in the front. He can also take the lead and support as well. He can also like fill in a spot or fill in a department that's necessary to achieve the goal. So it's not necessarily he's always, leading, but
No,
he's
that's
always
that's
getting the job done, in my opinion.
okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, he's always, yeah,
No,
he's
that's
always, mhm,
no. I was going to say that's masculinity in general. I mean, that's how masculinity moves, right? It's a certain
mhm,
assured self-assuredness of self and an effectiveness in being able to do things with or
mhm.
without others. But when you get into the whole dynamic of an alpha male centric mind behavior individual, alphas, they tend to always want to be at the top and they want to be above others and they want to dictate to others what they do in whatever circles in which they're placed. And so you're not going to find an alpha guy on an assembly line. And if he is, he probably won't be there for long because he needs to be in a position where he can shine. And he's going to maneuver himself to the position where he can shine.
Uh, very true. And then I'm gonna end off here. Very true.
Sure.
But he always wants to be the best in his own way. Like he's not
Well, it doesn't
dependent
mean that the
on
alpha is the
other
best.
people.
It doesn't mean that the alpha
Mm,
is the best. That's not what it means. He just means that he
mm,
demonstrates a certain characteristics and behavior. Doesn't
mm,
mean he's the best.
mm. Yeah, he's like he wants to be well, he wants to be the best in his own way. He's not necessarily trying to seek the validation of others, even though it's nice, but it's not necessarily his goal. He wants to be at the top of his own lane. He wants to be the top of in his own department. He can be in the leadership position, but again, it's always that he wants to get the job done and he wants to be the best in his own area. So yeah, I just want to say that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Looked like he froze.
Nah, he's good. He's just
Oh, okay.
pretty quiet. I don't know if you've seen that message from Tracy in the back chat.
Tracy.
That question.
Okay, yeah. Let me see if I can address that. It says, do men have to meet the criteria of a high value man to be a leader and considered strong? No. Uh, High value is just a status. It's like a caste system in the society, right? You're at the pinnacle level of economic success, and your network of individuals that you socialize with are also at higher levels or it's on a, it's on a band. So there are men that's going to be above you, there are men that's going to be below you, but they all meet the requirement to at least qualify to be in that circle. So with regard to high value, that's one thing. But as a criteria for being a leader, no. If you are a strong masculine individual, you're studied, you're educated, and you understand your character and how you lead, because different men lead different way. Some men are quiet, some men are boisterous. Doesn't mean either one is wrong or either one is better, but they lead from different ways, and they could be just as effective in the way in which they lead. Now, you can have a manager at a certain level where uh, they may be in middle management and they're effective at that level, but you put him at a higher level and he becomes totally disheveled. So different men lead at different level and are capable. Their capabilities sometimes don't always rise to all offices as a leader. Especially like I've traveled, I've I've lived in Africa for about 5 6 months, and I saw a different kind of leadership amongst men. I saw men that led that were just on a work site, and I saw men that were in the ministry and how they led. So you can have, it depends on your position in society. You can lead from the position of where you are. If you have a leadership mindset, you can do that. You don't have to always be $100,000 man or $1 million man. You can lead from wherever you are. Now, depending on your society, like in an American society, particularly in the black community, they don't respect a man unless he got money. There are other societies where that is not the only benchmark for respect as a man.
All right. JP, what's going on, brother? What you got for us?
What's up, JR? Hey, Mr. Lee. Definitely
Hey, how
G,
are you, Jay?
Chicago Ruler, everybody on the panel. Hey, I'm coming from a different angle on this too. I kind of agree with Definite G on the alpha and beta male thing.
Uh-huh.
But because if that was the case, if alphas is the one that's coming up with the plans and the betas is the ones that's building it, is it safe to say that all black men in America is betas? Because we live in a society where the white man come up with the idea and we work for them.
And
So
that's why I'm not going to say all black men are betas, but if you look at it from a slavery standpoint, when we were in slavery, the slave master would have been considered the alpha because he was running shit. Now, he may not have been an alpha-minded man. He just inherited because maybe his father was a slave master and he had a son, and he inherited his father's business, and he had 100 black men that he ruled over. So the black men in their circle, there could be alphas among the black men in their circle, but as they relate to the greater society of the slave master, they would be all betas, and they would be one that worked the farm or whatever the business was to make the product so it can be exported. That's why I
okay.
said, and that's why I said that a beta can become an alpha because betas do challenge alphas, and that's how they
Mhm.
rise in the rank. It always have to weed out the weak. If the alpha becomes too weak in his ruling of the society, there will be another beta that will rise up to become an alpha and take him down, and he becomes a new alpha.
Okay, I want to get back to this with the black women thing.
Hold on, Jay. I'm gonna come back around. Hold that question. Let me just try to get a little bit of input from everybody real quick, and I'll come back around. So hold that question. What's going on, Authentic Man?
Yeah, what up? Hopefully, ain't too much for not echo, and hopefully, I think y'all have me on. I just want to chime in on this whole alpha thing real quick. Just listening to everybody on the panel, everybody speak. I think one of the issues is that a lot of people equate alpha, being like an alpha, to masculinity, and I don't necessarily think that they are the same thing. You can be still in your masculine flame and be a beta. Also, at the same time, I think it's a kind of a symbiotic nature when it comes to the alpha beta thing. The alpha depends on the beta. At the same time, the beta depends on the alpha. match up with one
Well,
another.
what
Does
I
that
would
make
say
sense?
is that all the different masculine male ideologies, they all have an interrelationship in how dominance and execution permeates through the society. Uh, with regard to masculinity, all men are masculine. I think some men just have a superimposed feminine ideology, like a software in their minds, because they've been raised from a female centric ideology. But in their hard drive, their instinctive behaviors are still masculine. So most men
Right.
will demonstrate that. And masculinity and your type of masculinity, whether it's alpha, beta, or whatever, expresses itself differently.
I agree with that. Okay, cool. And again, I just wanted to touch on that because I
Okay.
didn't really join to talk about the alpha stuff. I just want to give my quick input on that.
Well, what do you think? What's your perspective with regard to men who always is caught up about their feelings of some woman, whether it's their wife, their girlfriend, or their mother, some woman? What's your
Uh,
thoughts about that?
so in regards to that, I think that's kind of one of the issues is that, especially when it comes to women, is that a lot of men they get into their emotions when it comes to women, and I think a part of being a man is knowing how to just stay within your masculine mind frame and stay within that logical mind frame to where you're not getting too emotional and you can think clearly and everything like that. Um, One of the things, like what I really was like, have to say, and I gave a super chat up on it, is that I think like part of the issue when it comes to the relationship dynamics or the dysfunctional relationship dynamics is that both sides are coming at each other in like this real defensive mode. Like men are approaching women in defensive mode, and then women are also approaching men in defensive mode. But as a
Well, I
man,
think women
I
are
can only,
approaching men in an aggressive
I'm
mode.
sorry if there's that. I'm sorry. But as a man, I can only control what I do. And so I always approach women in a good grace. And if and I try to break that natural defensiveness that they have up because a lot of the times their defensiveness is a just a natural mechanism and they have valid points to be defensive and everything like that. Does that make sense? And
Well,
so
if
I
you
just
if
take it
you
upon
are
myself to just be in good faith with that. Sorry about that if I'm having that.
no, sorry, I thought you had asked a question and paused at that point. What I would say is that if you are just getting into a relationship with a woman and getting to know her, her past relationship should not be what she's judging you by. And for you to take into concern whatever damage or not damage she may have is foolhardy of you. Don't concern yourself with those things. It's not your business. When you get into a relationship with a woman, you should have already have standards and boundaries in your life in which how you live, and you should let the woman know what behaviors are tolerable and what behaviors are deal breakers. And the first warning comes as you get to know each other. When she crossed the line, you let her know you crossed the line. There's going to be some kind of punishment for that. It doesn't have to be big, but it has to be a punishment. If it's something that you can live with. If she, like, for example, a deal breaker for me is public embarrassment. If a woman wants to get loud and display herself in the streets or in a restaurant and start pointing her fingers and trying to check me, I just get up. Usually, when I take a woman out, there's certain, I might have 4 or 5 restaurants that I enjoy. So, depending on the woman, I'll take her to a different place. But I already know the management there. So, when I get up, I ain't paying the bill. I'll pay it later. I'll just walk out. I'll bid her a good night and I'm out. And she have to figure it out. Now, if she's so attractive that I might give her a second chance, I might take a call the next day. I'm not going to take a call that night. She's going to have to think about her behavior and what she did and why. And she's going to have to come with the right tone and not be aggressive in the way in which she talked to me. And if I already mentioned to her that that behavior was not tolerable, then that could be a strikeout. If I never mention it because we never dated that long enough for us to get to that point where, certain boundaries as we move along was being laid out, uh, then I would let her know that's a boundary that you can't cross with me. And if you ever do it again, I will never speak to you again and I would never see you. And you have to be direct and you have to be straightforward when you say it. And you have to look her right in the face and don't smile and don't be apologetic. I don't take apologies. As a man, I don't take apologies because an apology is usually fake 9 times out of 10. It's only given when you get caught. It's never given up front. Nobody have never come to me 2 weeks later and say, "Hey, Lee, I want to apologize about this because I did this and I know you didn't find out, but I want to be the first one to tell you da 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 da." That's a real apology and that I would consider. But if you tell me after you get caught, you're just placating me at that point.
I like that. Let me get to Anthony Wagner real quick, and then you guys can chime back in. What's going on, sir? What you got for us?
Hey, JR, how you doing?
Phenomenal. How you doing, sir?
Oh
Hey, Mr.
man. Hey,
Wagner, how are you doing? Yes, how are you?
Lee, I'm doing real good. I guess first I want to start off telling JR how much I really admire and respect his creativity and his vision. I've seen you grow, and different members on the Lapeef Network, yourself, Anton, Rilla, like man, you guys are amazing. I've seen you grow, and your growth is just phenomenal. It's admirable, and I just really wanted you to know that. Just keep doing what you're doing. Go bigger, go harder, because I think that this is the counterbalance to what men really need. And I think that Lee, for you, I mean, I appreciate you so much because I think that right now, even in the manosphere, which I don't really listen to the manosphere, I'm I primarily listen to Lapeef, and I think that for me, you know, I think that there's too much emphasis and focus put on women.
Yep.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't care about what a woman thinks. I don't care what she feels. I don't care what she got going on. It is of no relevance to me because, you know, uh, I'm a high. I finally reached that age, Lee, and I think that you and I kind of closely relate. I'm 52, right?
All
And
right.
JR, that's why I love you so much, man, because like you guys are literally teaching because these are the things. So my dad passed when he was 39. Excuse me, my dad
Wow.
passed when I was 39,
Oh, okay.
and my uncle finished raising me. Now I want you to hear exactly what I said. My dad passed when I was 39 years old, but my uncle finished raising me. And so now through this platform, it has helped me. And I'm recently divorced, um, and this platform has helped me to discover, my vision, purpose, and to really bring clarity to it. And so, Lee, I really do resonate with a lot of things that you're saying, and I think that right now, I think there's too much emphasis put on on women and what they think and what they're doing. And I think that one of the things that JR, it was said on the prior, I think it was a Thursday night show, that it was more or less the fault of the government and social programs as to
Yeah,
why
I
women have gotten to be masculine, and that is not even
that
true.
is
that's
so
that's not even
false. Yeah,
that is
that is so
false.
false.
That is fundamentally false. It's not truth. There's no truth in it, because if you do the research and go to the government website, you will look and see that social programs only account for less than 1% of the United States budget. So it
GDP.
has nothing to do with social programs. What it has everything to do with, and Lee, you clarify this for me. I believe that it has to do with capitalism. That in the 90s, when women got their educations and they went into corporate America, and corporate America trained women to be gladiators. Black men, we were not in corporate America.
Right.
Black women were. And so then what happened was, and so I dated, so my girlfriend, she's 44, so she's a modern woman. So there are times where I have to remind her, don't talk to me like I'm one of your coworkers. Don't talk to me like I'm one of your coworkers. Don't talk to me like I'm one of your colleagues. Don't talk to me like you're my supervisor. Don't handle me like that. Um, and then I even go as far, Lee, as to tell her, don't talk to me with your hands. You know how they do. Put your
Right.
hands down when you talk to
Right.
me, and don't curse when you're talking to me. You are to remain in your feminine energy at all times. That's how I roll. And
Yeah,
so
all
I'm
of
going
the
to tell.
yeah, sorry.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Lee. So
No, you're
I'm going
good.
to tell you something that she said to me that literally opened my eyes because we talk about the content, Jr. That you guys put out. Um, she said that, and I think Lee, this resonates exactly what you were saying. She said that when a man makes four times the amount that a woman makes, maybe 4 to 5 times, she said it is at that point that a woman will base, as she says, shut the f up. If a man makes is in his six figures, high six figures, she's definitely going to shut the f up. So I said to her, I said, well, why does it take a man having to make more money than you for you to shut the f up? When the fact of the matter is that he's if you take
He's a
Haslow's
man.
hot, well, not even that. Let's leave that part out. Let's just set that aside for a minute. If you take just Haslow's hierarchy of needs, which is shelter, food, clothes, water, all those things, if a man's providing that for you, then why do you need to challenge him? Why is the pushback? And she said, well, it's because if I'm giving my money in this relationship, because the way I have my relationship structured, I told her that, I don't need her money for anything. Now, we can use her money to travel, invest, save, but she still wants to have a say if she's contributing any money. And I make almost three times the amount of money that she makes. So in closing, Lee, and I'll give it to you so we can dialogue back and forth. I appreciate the content and what things that you're saying, because in a sense that you're saying, men, stop worrying about what women do and what women are saying and trying to get women to be feminine. I don't care about, we shouldn't care about none of that. What
Exactly.
we should be caring about is building ourselves up as men. And one of the things that Kevin Samuels, which I don't agree with a lot of things that Kevin Samuels says, but one of the things I think that he says is correct is that we now should be building, as the Lapeef Network, these platforms and spaces that are run by men for men, and now begin to build the infrastructure, build our empires, build our networks, so that now we can stand back now and choose a woman that is worthy to work side by side with us, because this is a power struggle and women will always see themselves as equal to a man. If you're making 45, $50,000, you can't tell a woman what to do. I'm sorry, you just
Well,
can't.
well, the society have crafted that as an
Exactly,
ideology.
exactly. And so here's the
So,
thing, we're going literally against societal norms, and until like
well, natural norms.
natural norms, natural
Yeah.
societal norms. But the fact of the matter is that a man, so for me, what I promote, because I have two daughters, I believe that a man should have a vision, should have a purpose, his and be aligned, and then the work should be aligned. The work that he does should be aligned with his vision and our purpose. So if you're trying to be a pastor, you can't be a pimp trying to be a pastor because the work doesn't align. So if you're
But
trying to be
most pimps become pastors. Well, I shouldn't say
they
most.
do.
Some pimps become pastors
Well,
because
hey,
pastorship has become a money bag game.
exactly. So I think that just in this dialogue back and forth, I want to hear your thoughts. And I think that men should begin to build their finance, build their legacy through their finance, get their finances together, get to where they can now support, where you don't need a woman's money, where you don't need her to contribute. Because a woman's going to want partnerships. And I told my girlfriend, I said, look, partnerships fail in corporate America. Partnerships fail all the time. Why would I use that infrastructure of a partnership when partnerships fail?
Well, that's because women don't understand how leadership really works.
They don't.
Leadership leadership works from a single-minded approach. And the fact that a woman wants to be a co-equal partner of some sort is because a woman is looking for power. That's where it all stems from. Now, when
Right.
you mention, the interaction with, your wife sometimes where she
Girlfriend.
may want to raise
Mm.
girlfriend, sorry, raise her voice, use a hand to demonstrate her points that she's trying to express. Those type of behaviors need to be checked, and you rightfully
Yes.
did so. And when you did it, she maintains the respect for you as her as the leader in her life, as the man
Hmm.
that she's chosen. If she was to allow to do that over repetitively over time, some other man would come into her life because she would lose respect for you over time. Women tend to ask for things that they don't that's not good for them. but they do it anyway. And I think that's the part I think that comes from the societal influence that make women ask and do things or say they want certain things, but goes diametrically opposed to what they really want as a female, as a woman.
So,
So a
so
man,
Lee, so Lee,
yeah.
would you
Can I comment real
agree?
quick?
Let me ask you this one question. So Lee, would you agree? Because I feel as though that because I tell her I'm very masculine and I'm very dominant. But the fact of the matter is that I established this thing of where I don't need her and I don't need her money. So you have to, and I think Lee, I've heard you talk about this a couple times that you have to take away a woman's stronghold, and that first stronghold, because there is a fight for power. So you have to take away that first stronghold, which is money. If you take away the strongholds and then now make her stand in her feminine energy, and you continue standing in your masculine energy, I believe that is where that respect will naturally come. But as long as that power, I think that power struggle, the root cause of that power struggle is basically money.
It is.
Well, that's part of it, but what I would say is that respect don't come naturally. You have to establish respect early in the relationship, and that comes from your do's and don'ts. One of the things a man should never do is try to change a woman. That's why, picking the woman that's going to be your girlfriend or wife is very essential, that you know yourself and the kind of man that you want and which woman would work well under your authority. I don't never look at a woman as an equal or an equal partner.
I
I
agree.
don't see women that way. And in relationships, I don't interact with them in that way at all. And I mean, I was like this from I was in my 30s. And, what I would say is that as you increase your economic value, if you don't have a certain way in which you manage your own life, a disorganized woman, because she's attractive, will come into your life and reap havoc.
I
Doesn't
agree.
matter how much money you have.
I
So
agree.
you have to have boundaries within your life. You have to have a certain standards by which you live your life. And whichever woman you bring into her life, no matter how much money she makes, more or less, you tell her what are the rules of your life. She decides whether she wants to abide by it. If she doesn't, see you later. If it's just sex for a time, sex for a time. But if it's going to be more than that, this is how I move. If you could work with this, we could work together.
I
The
agree.
thing is like if a woman made, if black women were really in their zone as women, and they got with a man, I'm not going to say 40,000 as a base, because when I found out that statistics, it threw me also, because I made 40,000 back in 1982.
Yeah, I don't think that's an accurate
So I
number.
couldn't I was very hard
Yeah,
for me to wrap my head around that baseline as the medium income for men or black men.
yeah,
I was
no,
like, wow, that threw me too. So, but what I would say, if you're a man that's making a decent income, 75, 80,000 or better, and you get with a woman that's making 125, 150,000, I think as a man, if you have good leadership skills and you have ideas on how you want to build and grow, you could bring that woman right under you in subjection, and you can use that
yes,
money to build and to make more. But if you're
right,
going to allow her to just be squanderous and then use her larger income to dictate to you, that just means you don't have a good handle on your masculinity and a man as a leader, period. So it doesn't matter what woman you get with, whether she
right.
makes more or makes less, she's going to dominate you anyway.
No, I think that's great wisdom, because ultimately it boils down to men have to be financial earners and providers. Because
Yes,
if
that's
she,
the world in which
because
we live in.
yes, exactly. Because the fact of the matter, Lee, is that like this is a whole new generation, because as you notice, like I got gray in my beard, and you do too. But the fact of the
Yes.
matter is that the girls or women that JR, that he's going to deal with, and they're going to come to the table with highly degreed, highly educated. And so the fact of the matter is that they're going to feed, and then don't let them go through corporate leadership training or anything. They're going to come to the table feeling a sense of masculinity, that they are a equal.
Well,
And
they're
so
going
the
to come
fact
trying to be a boss.
exactly. And so for me, what I simply say is that we got to forget about trying to convert them and check them. It's like I have this here whole, I'm really confused, like why are men holding women accountable? Like like why would you hold a woman accountable? It's like I don't care what a woman thinks or feels. I don't care about that. It has nothing to do
Well,
with
I
me.
think I would say the accountability is a necessary conversation. It is a necessary conversation.
But
However, I think, let me finish.
go
What
ahead.
I
I'm
would
sorry.
say is that what I would say is that the man needs to be accountable to himself first. He needs to set certain accountabilities for himself. And when the women come into his world, he needs to let the woman know how he lives, what his expectations of her, of that woman is. And if she can't live by that, usually a woman will buck
She'll
and
exit.
she would say, you're controlling and you're this and
Right.
you're that. And you say,
Exactly.
well,
Exactly.
yes, you're absolutely right. I do control my life because my life is on a certain trajectory and I have every intention of achieving the things that I've set for myself. Now, if you want to partake and be a part of that, these are the things that you're going to have to live by. And if you can't live by that, thank you very much. If you're just in a dating phase and you even haven't had sex yet, and it's by one or two dates or whatever, move on. Don't
Right.
waste your time and money with a woman that you know is not going to comport herself to be subjective onto you. If a woman is not going to be subjective to you as a man and as a leader, kick it to the curb because over time it will just get worse. Bad behavior don't get less. Bad behavior increase.
Exactly. But what you just did was not hold her accountable. You set a standard. This is
No,
how I
because
work. This is how I
well,
flow.
the
And
thing.
so because
Okay,
I
go
don't
ahead.
have to
Sorry.
check. I don't have because for me to hold because this is the thing I see in this manosphere is that men are arguing back and forth in the sense of trying to hold her. There's this argument back and forth, men arguing back and forth with women. To me, what I see that as is really just feminine energy because women argue back
Right,
and forth.
right. Women
A
argue back and
man,
forth. Right.
a man should basically say, look, just as you said, look, I'm not going to have all that. We're not going to talk about all that. I've said what I said, and that's what I said.
And that's
And
it.
so, and that's it. And so, if you don't like it, then you can go.
See, see, the thing is that most men are weak to the P, and they can't hold themselves to that standard because if they ain't gonna get no P, they're like, a
Oh,
man
that's
will
what that
break
is.
his standard overnight to get some sex, bro. And that's what I see. That is the Achilles heel of black men. They can't hold themselves to a standard because if they got a fine piece of ass, they ain't gonna let it go. They're gonna let that woman, like it's a puppy. They're gonna let it shit all over the house and they're gonna clean it up until he's 9 months old and that shit is 5 pounds. Then it's a
Hey,
problem.
thank you for bringing it out, and now exposing the whole weakness, which it ain't the women, it's the P. That's what it is. And once we understand that, once we're not ruled by the P, I think that men now will become leaders because I just think that that's how this thing plays out. Um, but I'm gonna be quiet and let somebody else get in. But I wanted to just kind of contribute that because this last couple of weeks there have been things that have been said that I'm sitting up here like that is what that being interjected into this here space is only going to confuse men more. And men have to understand, get your bag up and learn how to lead, set standards for your life, and then allow the right woman that's going to get under your program. So Lee, I'll say this and I'll finish. So like my program is really simple. I told my girlfriend, I said, you must be in your feminine energy at all times. The things that is important to me is your mental space, your mental health, physical health, emotional, spiritual, and your pH has to be healthy at all times. If that stuff ain't working, if it ain't healthy, then there's a problem. We're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk about it. And if you can't get it together, then guess what? You're gonna be out.
Well, I think that's one of the things. One of the things, and because I've been in sales for so long, one of the things I'm very good at is negotiating. And
Right.
as a good negotiator, you have to know when you've put forth a good deal. And when you put forth a good deal, and the person on the other side of the table is still kicking and screaming or acting all stupid, you have to be able to push away from the table and walk away
Exactly.
because the buyer on the other side of that table, he knows when he's got a good deal and he knows when he's probably got the best deal. He's not going to let you walk away, but some people just like to push and push and push and push. And you have to recognize when it's a fruitless continuance of a discussion and just
Nice.
end it.
Hey, Mr. Wagner, if you mind me asking, how long have you guys been dating?
Basically we've been dating for going on 7 months. And basically what I did was I started off.
I just want to know how long you guys been dating,
Oh yeah, 7 months.
and is she still trying to give you pushback?
So I'm going to be honest with you that in the early beginning stages. So let me start off by saying this because Lee said this earlier, and I think JB said it.
I just want to know, is she still giving you pushback?
Let me tell you why she's still here, and then I'm going to answer. The pushback that she gives is basically 90% less than what it used to be. 90% less. It now there are times because one, she's hyper super intelligent, and what I really appreciate and value about her is her perspective. And I tell her all the time, so I don't value her womb because I don't want kids anymore. I don't need her money. So what she brings to the table is a very unique perspective about life and just the experiences that I need and I want because of her experience. So, but the fact is, as Lee said, that a woman will at times, I do get challenged. She does. At times she does. But the fact is that what I do is that I remain in my masculine energy at all times, so that when I am challenged, I understand how to listen to her, how to nurture her, how to grow her, but then also tell her that there are certain this is how I'm moving. And you're welcome to be a part of this here journey. But if not, then okay.
I think because there's people in the chat as well, and I'm kind of getting that feeling. Like I just almost felt like I had to say something. Is there any particular reason why she may not have seen the energy that you bring without you even have to say anything?
Is
That's
there
what I was.
any particular reason
Why throughout
that
the 7 months? Because you're saying she's still, even if it's 10%, she's still giving pushback. But one might ask, why did she get a pushback in the first place? Like, what did she see in the very beginning that she felt as though she can get that pushback? Because you guys didn't know each other. It's not like she's been knowing you for years. You guys been dating for 7 months. You know, sometimes a woman can recognize what a man is in the very beginning. Now, she may have her own very reasons as to why she's dealing with you, you know, and it almost sounds as though, because you said the reason why I allowed a pushback is because I like her perspective. I've seen some things that I need. That key word was that I need. And that kind of concerns me a little bit. And it's no disrespect, you know, we just having a conversation. I'm
no
just
no 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 we get
having
it.
a conversation just to seek understanding because there may be a flaw somewhere along the lines of how you are overvaluing her. Because it almost seems as though like you're trying to train her and you're getting some pushback. You're going in 7 months. Is this something that you really want to do? Like, why is she still there dealing with it? She's giving 10%, so she's still giving some pushback. It just seems something real funny with the situation.
So the thing I'll say is that I appreciate the the question, and also because from man to man, I do stand in correction. I think that that's the beauty of talking with men is that you stand in correction. And so what I will say to you is that what I've always perceived it as is that one is that it is a woman's natural instinct, as we talked about earlier, a societal natural instinct for nowadays for women to push back. And then the other part of it is that because so natural instinct, one is her age, because she's 44, just turned 44. So she's in a different age category. Now, one of the things that I will tell you if I turn the mirror to myself, because that's what I try to be good at doing also is turning that mirror to myself, is that I've had to learn how to adjust with her and not negotiate as much, but not let her get bigger than my vision, not allow her to get bigger than my vision. So where now, it moves back down to now, what are you contributing and what is the actual value that you do bring to this unit that we're in. So early on in the dating phase, because we were dating, it was, I'm gonna be honest, I think I overvalued her early on. I think that that's what it is. New relationship. I had been, just new relationship, other personal factors going on, and I overvalued her at the time. And what I've had to do is now continue to self-reflect and pull in and to make sure that I don't allow anyone to get bigger than my vision or my purpose. So it was the overvaluing aspect of
I definitely appreciate your honesty, and that's what I was kind of seeing. That it
Yeah.
seems
it.
like it was a
Yes.
reason why you was kind of sticking around. But if you mentally have to work that hard, I just can't imagine. Because you're trying to like retrain her thought, and she's in her 40s. I mean, she's been like this. I understand that most women nowadays appear to be that way, but some of them ain't. A lot of them ain't stupid. They'll try to pull that with the right person. I mean, with the person that would allow them to, but the men that won't allow them to, they won't pull it. Like they won't pull it.
So
Well,
the thing I'll say for me in terms of just kind of trying to figure it out is that in terms of my preference, like I don't necessarily I count the for me that sweet spot in age is at 41 to 44 because I think that they still have enough um, they're not as ingrained with a lot of just crap. For me, 35, 36, it's too young for me. I just feel like it's too young now. That would probably be the best because now, she definitely falls, I guess, would fall in a lot easier. But what I found is that from a comfort level and how do you say it? I guess a relatability level, I don't relate a lot on that because I guess I'm older. My oldest daughter is 28 years old. So out of respect for my daughters, I don't go like, go that young because I want my daughters to view me in a certain manner aspect. So um, early on, it was overvaluing this individual and
Oh,
and
okay.
getting away from my purpose.
Okay. I'm gonna make this point and then I'm
Uh,
gonna let
okay.
Lee go ahead and cook though. It doesn't really matter the age. What that tells me is that you got a lot of work to do. You got a lot of work to do with yourself, and
Mhm.
and then when you step out into the arena in the field, then like you will know how to conduct yourself. Because if you didn't overvalue her in the beginning, then you might have left a different impression on her, or maybe she might be different, or maybe she might have been able to fall up under your leadership. Modern women not going nowhere. So that's what Lee was saying. We gonna have to fix ourselves. We got to
Right.
make
I
sure
agree.
that we always on our A game. It's like less
Exactly.
about the woman,
Exactly.
but and to your first point that you made, I appreciate all the conversations that's happened. I don't ever take anything personal. So whether it's a woman's channel, whether it's different shows on the network, whether some people is out of line, I feel like all these conversations are needed because
I
we
agree.
are seeing so much and we're learning. We're seeing like what to look for. We're seeing how to notice some of the red flags. We're seeing their behavior in real time. There's just a lot of things happening because I'm gonna be honest. It's a lot of things that I didn't understand from a psychological aspect. I knew who I was. I never let a woman like rule over me, but I never even knew like what femininity was. I just thought. I mean, I too thought that women was a certain way, but I would never let a woman like overthrow me or try to tell me something. Like I would always do what I want to do. I mean, when it come
Hmm.
to men, like all the men can say they doing this for whatever reason. I'd be like, no, I'm not doing that. This is what I'm gonna do. When I came into this space, people said, you got to have a niche. I said, I want to talk about whatever I want to talk about. I don't give a damn about what it is. I always go against the grain because that's just me. I don't like to do what everybody else is doing. Some days I may feel like being the last person in the room. Some days I don't. I dictate and choose like what it is what I want to do. And one of the hardest things was that I had to learn is to listen because I ain't never listened to nobody. Somebody could
Hmm.
tell me something like I don't care. I really don't care about the trolls. I really don't care what anybody else is saying because I control my life. I'm gonna live my life. I could disappear right now and I don't have to deal with none of this shit because I
Hmm.
control my life. I don't let what the next person is saying and doing dictate how I'm gonna move because it's my life. So just if I had some advice to give you, just understand like who you are and what it is that you want out of life and for yourself. You don't have to tolerate anything. Do whatever you need to do that's necessary to build yourself up, to gain confidence. And I know it's a struggle because these are conversations that I like to have, but you can hear it all day. If it's never been you and you in your 40s and you just never had that confidence, it's gonna be a struggle. I don't even know. Sometimes I struggle on how to tell somebody to be confident because they don't feel it. They hear it and they can do it, but women can see that it's not natural. They can just feel it.
Mm.
So now I think we got to go real deeper on how to align like the thought with the passion inside. Like how do you turn it on? How you ignite it, man? Because I get it. It's a struggle, man. And she probably seen that and you showed in the beginning. But moving on, you can't do that shit, man. You
No, I
cannot do
agree.
that. You have to walk
I
away.
and
Well, I would like to add a couple of things
mm,
to the conversation. One I would say is that he mentioned that she's a modern woman. So that's a certain mind centric sense of
mhm,
her. He also said that she's a professional woman. So, Kevin had said that at some point, some men, and he's of a man in his 50s, you're going to have to make deals. And I think he, with this woman, is saying that, look, she check off X number of boxes. There's still some
mhm.
boxes that are problematic,
Right.
but I think I can work with this woman. And I think that's probably the direction he's going with. The only thing is, it's important that you start the way you intend to finish. So, like JR said, because you may have held her up high, she had gotten accustomed to that. And now that you're trying to redirect and put some things in places, she finds herself bucking. And you may not know if she in her mind thought that you was playing her to get in with her and then change it later after the fact. Women are not the only one that change in relationships. Men do it too. Now, whether it was a conscious awareness on your part or it just kind of happened over time, the point is it's important that we recognize how we're behaving at the beginning of a relationship because 9 times out of 10, when you try to change stuff halfway down the road, people will resist that because they're like, you weren't like this before. You tolerated this behavior before. Why are you not accepting it now? So these are things that you have to be aware of. The point is, you say it's 10%. I don't know where the percentage started when you guys got together, but I think if she sincerely wants to be with you and you lay down certain parameters to the relationship as you move forward, if she's willing to work through it, you know, she can modify herself to respect you as the
Mhm.
man in her life, and that's the
Right.
key.
That's the key. And I
Brother
think the thing.
Lee,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
I'm
just real
sorry.
quick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've been patiently listening, and I actually had something that I wanted to add and address with you, Brother Wagner. But Harlem Lee, question real quick because Brother Wagner presents a different situation, and I know the easy response when I say this may be that a man remains a man at all time, but we're talking about somebody who is looking at he's on the back end of this now, so he's looking at another 48 years, right? And so maybe he's coming to the table with the perspective of um, like you talked about, negotiating, right?
Hmm.
What are the deal breakers? What can I accept? What can I not accept? Okay, the pushback is 10% at this point. Can I tolerate the 10% and work to trim the 10%? Now, Brother Wagner, the one thing I will say, um, that some of us may have heard was that when you said, your significant other is 44, at that point, that's a grown woman that's lived life. That's not a little
Exactly.
girl. Keith Sweat would say, you're not a little girl, you're a woman. Right? So this is a woman that's had experience. She comes to the table with her life, you know what I'm saying, so on and so forth. And so there is an opportunity to be introspective, um, also while maintaining empathy,
Hmm.
right, for who she is and where she's at. But brother Lee, I'm asking you because I know a lot of times for me, I'm passionate about the young bloods and a lot of stuff that I listen to from you, sir. You know, I take it and you know, apply it and so on and so forth. And I try and, you know, relate some of those messages to my inner circle. But I think Brother Wagner may present a a different case study for you, or maybe not. So I just wanted to hear your feedback on that.
Okay, when you say a different case study, what do you mean?
I'm strictly
Brave.
looking at the fact that he's 52 and
Oh
he's
no, I
yeah.
mean, Kevin Samuels had talked about this on his show. That older brothers who are looking to get into a relationship with a woman such as the age over 35, early 40s, whatnot, you
Hmm.
know, you're gonna have to make a deal. What is that deal going to look like? And what are the things that she checks off for you? You're not gonna get the perfect woman in the sense that she's
No,
not gonna meet all of your criteria. Is
no.
80% good? Is 85% good? Is 90% good? I mean, you're going to have to make that distinction for yourself. And to me, what I kind of hear from Mr. Wagner is that he has a woman that he believes he can work with.
Yep.
And there are some issues, but it seems as though he's trying to trim that back, as you said. Now, obviously, we don't know to the degree how much pushback she may push back in terms of, especially from a corporate, coming from a corporate background. You know, there's some women like me, when I worked on Wall Street, when I came home, you know, once I changed my clothes and I got out of my suit, I was not the Wall Street guy anymore. I'm just Lee at home. You know, some people can make that switch mentally in their life easy. Some people wear the hat all day long, night, day, sleep, wake up. Some people are like that. If she is that type of woman, he's going to have a fight on his hands because she's never going to give up certain things. Then he just have to determine or decide for himself, is this a deal breaker for me, or I can live with that because all the other things work. So, you know, as individual black men, especially middle-aged men in their 40s or 50s, as we go forward, you know, as we deal with our black women, we're going to have to see to what level the term "can an old dog learn new tricks" become a reality or not, right? So
Hold on, Wagner. Hold on one second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
some women are capable of making an adjustment. It just depends on how hard the programming is in them. Some women are drunk with power and they ain't giving up shit. So it all depends on the woman you get, and you need to identify that early in a relationship so you can decide how you want to move with her.
Hey, Tracy, I know she wanted to come back up and say something. You there? All right.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So what I wanted to comment on the financial thing because I keep hearing about how much people make, and I'm just giving my perspective as a woman. Okay. And my perspective as a woman is I don't care how much they make. I've been involved with men that have a lot of earnings and they are unmanageable with their money. I am concerned with a man that knows how to manage his money and make it work for him. And if that's 50,000 or 60,000, I am good with that. That has visions for the future. Um, that's what's important. And I think we get caught up in the wrong things as women and as men. The amount of money you make doesn't make you successful. How you use the money, how you invest it, and how you make it work for you. Your vision of future wealth and current stability. So I wanted to say that, and I'm saying that as a woman
But what I
who's
would,
been
if I
married,
may,
and that I believe has made my marriage successful. My husband was a high school, only had a high school diploma, but I can tell you, as a widow, the way he managed the money, I get about $5,000 now in just benefits from his annuities and things like that. Clear,
well,
because he was very focused and intentional with what he did with his money, with us living beneath our means, yet we traveled the world. He planned, he knew what to do. So I think like it's not about always the amount, but how you utilize what you're bringing in. That's one
Well,
thing. And
before you move on to the next point you want to make, I'd like to address that quickly. Well, definitely, a man that's reckless with money, doesn't matter how much he makes, he'll still be foolish in the way in which he spends, because some men think that there's an ever flowing amount of money that's coming, especially when you're making a lot and you're at your high point. It just keep coming, and it seems like there's no stop to it. So if a young man doesn't develop certain management skills in terms of how he spend and invests, it's not going to change. As he get older, he's just going to become more reckless, and it will probably wind up being broke. Uh, what I will say that a man that knows how to manage a little can go forward with a lot as well. And I think from you speaking from the perspective where you are as a mature woman at this stage, I really think you need to address that to women, not so much to men, because it's the women that really drive a lot of the things that most
Mm-hmm.
men do, because they know that for me to even sit down with her at the table, if I'm not making X, we're not going to have a wide conversation at all. So I think that's something that you as a woman should address other women about, because it's the woman's perspective on that that's pushing that whole thing with regard to money. Because there's a lot of men that are single that make, I guess, between 50,000 and 60,000 or 65,000, and a lot of women are not dealing with these men. They want the guy that's making 300,000. You know, so these are the men that they're going after. But men that make that kind of money, they know they have options, and they might deal with you just for the entertainment purpose, but not necessarily for any commitment purpose. And I think most women don't separate the two. They think sex means that they like you or the man want to be with you, and that's not really a reality for men. So that's one aspect with regard to that. With regard to the whole situation with the society as it stands today, I think in general, black men need to bring their money up. I mean, 42,000, 45,000, under 50,000 is just not enough money for a
It's
man to
not
make
enough.
really live. You need to make more money, period.
Brother
And I
I'll
Lee.
think
bring
well,
we
in real
should,
quick.
one
Wait,
second,
wait. I'm
we
sorry, Miss
should,
Tracy.
we should, as black men, I think we should look at high 80s to 100,000 should be a benchmark for us to
Yep.
make going forward. And that's not unachievable as the majority of the black society. We can do it.
okay.
Harlem
Can
Lee.
I
I'm
just
sorry, Miss
say,
Tracy. Wait. I'm sorry, Miss Tracy, because I think point is really important. What I'm about to ask, Harlem Lee. And it's going to sound like a really base question, and people in the audience may not know. Why set the benchmark at 80 to 100,000? Why isn't $40,000 enough?
Okay, if you make 40,000 and you get 38% tax, that's almost 50%. That means about 24,000 is really your take home. If you pay $1,000 a month, that means it's $12,000 a year. And most
Yeah.
apartments for rent is not even 1,000; it's
It's
more.
not even that.
Plus transportation, food. You're not living. You're poor.
Right.
all right,
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
can I respond? I agree with you. I definitely agree that we should raise our level of income. And the point I wanted to make when I said my husband was a high school grad, he did make six figures. He made six figures, but he had visions and he worked up to that six figures. But I'm just saying, and I do address this with women, because one of the things is a lot of times as women, we are financially
Illiterate.
unmanageable. We're
Right.
financially
That's true.
unmanageable. And then we get, so I was financially unmanageable when I got into my marriage. And my husband really brought me around. Like, hey, no, we pay our bills and pay. We're debt free. We have our own, we don't own for our home, things like that. We're gonna invest. So I had learned from him. He was a teacher, which is the role of a husband, part of the role of a husband. He taught me. Now I'm a widow, and I'm like, oh no, I can't be ordering Uber Eats. I could cook that better. You know what I'm saying? Maybe once in a while I might go out to eat. I'm not paying $7, $8 on a $10 pizza. So we are as a community of Black people, we need to increase our financial literacy, but also as women, because part of it is sometimes we are in charge of how we buy the food, what we cook, what we eat, what we feed our family, and things like that. So I agree with that. The other thing I wanted to say, and this is based on a clinical perspective, I do a lot of couples counseling. And you know, Mr. Lee said it. Don't go in there thinking you can change people. Um, Especially after a certain age. People will evolve if they are open to your leadership. And people, you know, there's different type of leadership. People follow people because of fear or because of respect. So which type of leadership are you evoking, right? Because if people are following you out of respect, believe me, you will be much more successful. And I also want to say something about the word punishment because I keep hearing it. And yes, I'm a woman, so I
All right, Tracy,
respond as a
it's your
woman.
last point,
Okay,
Tracy.
my last point. Um, there's a difference between punishment and discipline. Punishment stops a behavior, but discipline teaches a person what to do. So I want everybody to be mindful of that, right? And that's it.
All right, Tracy, appreciate you. Thanks for the support.
Hey,
Hey,
before we really wrap up, may I
JR, I'm gonna let
chime in
somebody
real
else
quick?
jump on.
Okay. All right. Appreciate you, Anthony. Thank you for the
Thank you.
support.
We'll see you next time.
All
Thank you,
right.
Lee.
Thank you.
Mr. JR, I just wanted to see if I could chime in on a point that Anthony had brought up uh, surrounding capitalism. Because listening to a lot of the talk and everything like that, and I think he brought up a good point. I think capitalistic indoctrination is at the root of a lot of the issues. Like we've internalized capitalism, and then when you internalize capitalism, you turn everything into basically a dollar symbol. So if you start looking at like in like the 1950s and stuff like that, where we had the big boom and the big industrial boom and everything like that, um, we just as a Western society, period, we've turned into a very consumerist basic uh, society, and we've indoctrinated that capitalism and everything like that to where much of what we do, much of what we place our value is in how much we can produce, and a lot of this stuff is coming from, like I said, I don't want to get canceled, nothing like that, but it's coming from like it's gonna sound like a conspiracy stuff, but it's coming from like capitalistic elites, the people that are rich way up at the top, and they're the ones that are all pulling these strings of stuff together to say like, "Hey, you are worth anything, or you're not worth much as a human if you don't necessarily produce." Does that make sense?
Well,
I think this, is the type
production
of
is,
stuff that like people like Fred Hampton and stuff used to speak on. You know what I'm saying?
well, production is necessary. I mean, I don't think capitalistic economics as a market economics to the society, from what I've looked at, the four different type of economics, capitalist seems to be the best that brings out the best of people. I think where the problem is consumerism. That's a whole new type of economic, which really came from a business standpoint to generate revenues.
You're right.
Consumerism is a whole new philosophy that has come up in the past 50 or so, 60 years, 70s, more or less. No one makes Black people spend their money. Black people choose to spend their money. You just have to change your mind on how you spend. It's like I had a conversation with JB on a show a couple of shows back, and he said something very particular. He said, "You know what? I don't go around flashing brand name Nike and all these different fashions and their shoes. You know, we will kill for rubber. Like really, a pair of sneakers is rubber and cloth, and we will kill each other for rubber. I mean, the society ain't do that to you. You did that to yourself. That's the story you tell yourself to make yourself look important. If I'm wearing this, I'm important. I'm as important as my neighbor because he got it, or more important than my neighbor because he doesn't have it. And that's what we do to each other. Society don't do shit. Stop that. Accountability, that's black man's accountability right there.
Right. And again, I'm not. I always place the accountability back on men because ultimately men, again, are like I said, I believe that they are the natural leaders and everything like that. What I'm saying is that, and again, that's why I don't ever really necessarily come into women or talk to women in such a way to where if it's defensive, because I'm not going to blame them for anything or anything like that. I'm going to always take it back to the men and stuff like that.
But you have to point out their misbehavior. If you don't, they don't know what's wrong.
Yes, pointing out their misbehavior is one thing. But what I'm saying is that if they are misbehaving, especially if I'm in a relationship with a woman and she's misbehaving, I'm going to point out that misbehavior. But then I'm also going to analyze myself as a man to see, okay, why is she doing that? Because I need to be able to check myself at the same time. But what I'm saying is that as a society, period, a lot of the issue, like if you like I said, really start peeling back these layers and stuff like that. Like I said, we always go back to a certain time frame, either the 40s or the 50s, and we'll say something changed here. Now, a lot of what's been pushed
Called
in, like the
marketing.
right? Yes, marketing. Yes,
Called marketing.
I agree with that. A lot of in the black manosphere will say that, well, woman picked the white man or picked the white man and what they offered, and they turned their back against the black man, stuff like that. Black men would say, well, I mean, like I said, did that. Black women might say, well, women left their, not women, men left the homes. They were in the army or this, that, or the other. But however we want to boil it down, they'll say, well, men left the homes, and so we had to pick this. All I'm saying is that all of this stuff is just some puppetry type of stuff. But when you trace it back, you have these people at the top that this is all a part of their plan and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? And if you really break it down, it comes down to this. You saying consumerism, I'm saying capitalism.
Well, capitalism is an economic way in which the society is run, right? It's
Right,
like socialism. That's an
right.
economic way in which a society is run.
But you need
Consumerism
profit for
is
capitalism to work.
Oh, you
And
gotta
for
talk one at a
capitalism
time,
to
y'all.
work, you have to maximize profit. And to maximize profit means you need to minimize what you're going to spend on that stuff.
well,
And so again, this is where it gets into the
America.
whole. Go ahead.
Sorry, America was the #1 economy way back in the 40s. At the turn of the century, America was the #1 world economy way back then.
Right, because they benefited off of free labor.
Right. But what I'm saying is that once the free labor was over, what they then business came up with was consumerism. If we can get people to buy as much, and if you notice also with consumerism is that the quality of the production of things have lessened, where things used to have a production life of almost your entire life. A washing machine or a refrigerator would last damn near forever. Now
Yeah,
they're made to break in 4 or 5 years, so you have
yeah,
to
planned
replace it. So
obsolescence.
that's part of
Yeah,
the consumerism is built into the mechanics of production. That's part of what I'm talking about. Also, the production in terms of how they market to the consumer, that you always want to have the latest version, right? But that's something that we can control, right? Marketing is a self-accepting behavior. It's not forced upon you. So
I
it's
agree.
up to black people to be able to understand the dynamics of the society that they're in. And if they want to improve their position, they can move in a different way and gain wealth and surpass in the society if we move different. We make companies rich, billions of dollars. Black people spend trillions of dollars annually, but we don't own and produce jack. That's a behavior. Behaviors can be altered, behaviors can be changed. Change your mindset, change the behavior.
I agree. And I don't have no pushback necessarily against what you said about that. My thing is on understanding exactly what's happening, and in the same way that the whole red pill thing is understanding a woman's nature. We also need to understand the capitalistic nature and how it's set up. And what I'm saying is, like I said, a lot of
But
the
you're not going to
time,
change capitalism. So
I'm
that's a
not
fruitless
necessarily
fight.
looking to change
You need to
capitalism. I'm
understand
looking to understand.
consumerism.
Yes,
Consumerism, you can change your behavior to modify that and gain wealth. I think everyone understands uh, capitalism as a economic as an economic principle. Everyone understands that, or at least at some point when you grow up, you understand that. You make a product, it's good. You advertise it to your community or wherever. People buy it for money, and you have to make sure whatever price you set is replacement costs plus a profit above that, whether it's 10% or whether it's double 100%. You determine that. You have to price in labor, you have to price in raw material, you have to price in production, and after that, you set a price for it to be sold. The problem with Black people is that our whole mentality is on buying. That has nothing to do with capitalism. Capitalism, you either have capitalism or you're going to have socialism or you're going to have communism. Those are all uh, economic principles. Whatever society you're in, they're going to operate on one of those until someone comes up with something new altogether. So it's not the economic principle that's the problem, it's your behavior in the economics. And the behavior is done through marketing. And it's now a consumerism society that have been laid on top of capitalism. And we are the biggest consumers of all people.
right. And again, I'm not. Okay, here's what I'll say.
Sure, get your
There
final point
have
in,
been.
authentic man.
Go ahead. I'm
Your
sorry.
final point.
Yes, sir. So here's basically what my final point is, man. Again, I know it's getting circular. Look, um, like I said, I'm not going to sit here up here and say that we as a black people don't need to necessarily focus inward and stuff like that. I think we do, but what I'm saying is just be a little bit do a little bit more research on the capitalistic nature and stuff like that. Do a little bit more research on people like Fred Hampton. Do a little bit more research on these people and see what their actual ideas was and see why these people were literally taken out by the same capitalist society that literally paid cops and stuff like that to come in there and kill these people. Just all I'm saying is just be open to that. That's all I'm saying is just be open to that something might be up. That's all I'm saying. Just be open to the stuff.
Okay.
Well, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak on the platform.
No
No
problem,
problem.
sir. Thank you for your support. Appreciate you calling in.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Jay.
Yeah.
Hey, I had a few little things I had wanted to say. Two of them going to be really quick. I want to say to the guy, Anthony Wagner, like you were saying, JR, you took the words out of my mouth. Basically, to sum it all up, when you approach a woman, and if you acting like a fan, that's how she's gonna treat you. A lot of times, like I don't believe that we is meant to just be hunters. I don't mean that we just meant to be hunters, because when I think of everything like in a fight or something, when you throw that first blow, it can be very detrimental. You like when you approach a woman, you putting yourself vulnerable at that moment. She could turn you down and make you look weak and stuff like that. So I really didn't. If it's not mutual, or if she don't send me a strong signal, I'm too much not gonna. Well, I'm saying like in the future, I will not go for it. But a lot of times, to move from a different topic, what I wanted to say, I think a lot of us black people, we look at the black community from a white man's lens to sum everything up. Because when we keep talking about money, when you have all this money and stuff. Like when I watch Love and Hip Hop and people that got all this successful money and they very successful, but yet it's still a lot of those men get treated like they betas. And when we talk about how our women treat us, you got to think. I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like white men playing chess. And the reason why I say they playing chess is because what happens when you get when you playing chess and you cross your opponent's board and you get to pick a piece, most people going to pick the queen. So I think when the white man crossed our lines, they picked our queen and used our queen against us. That's why we like when black women get with us, we have on all this hell. And the white man, they empowering them, they giving them all this type of stuff, they programming them to be this way against us. Because when I see black women in a relationship with majority of the white men that they do decide to marry, it don't be none of this. I seen like they had a video on YouTube of how black women conduct themselves when they with black men and how they conduct themselves with white men. I didn't even know who those black women was. I'm like, damn, I ain't never seen black women act like that. I have never seen black women act like that.
Well, it's a perceived respect.
So what you're saying is like they respect more the power, because it can't just be about money. I think they respect white men because, for one, white man got the power.
Well, yes, that's what I said. Women likes power, period.
And that's what I was telling you show a couple of times before. It's all about power. It's not the money.
So they know that
about the money.
They know that they would get ahead further with a white man potentially than with a black man, because a black man have less power. So he can take me lesser wherever I want to go. With him, I'm going to end up lesser than if I get with the white guy, because he can take me further.
So with that, okay. With that being said, Mr. Lee, you like to be called Mr. Lee?
Just Lee is fine.
Okay. With that being said, Lee, do you think it's with that what you just gave us? Do you think it's a waste of time even to try to convince black women to respect us? Because I think they really know. They got common sense. They know they supposed to respect men. They know they're not supposed to act masculine. They know this. So do you think it's a waste of time even telling them that? Because we just both agree once they get with men with power, they automatically get into their feminine. They automatically act how we've been crying for them to act.
Well, I think change the perception. Like I said before, if black men become more competent and display a more competent behavior and success and challenge power in the society, they're going to have a different perception. You don't have to worry about changing. You don't have to worry about changing their mind. They'll do that on their own.
Hey, Lee, that's what I've been trying to say. I've been trying to tell us black men we need to stop being comfortable of laying on our knees. Like I just feel like we the only race of people that never stood up for ourselves physically. And we the only ones, because you know, when other races, they might have lost the war, but they gain respect. You know, all them other race of men that fought America, or whatever, fought the men of power of today, they got some type of they get some type of retribution from that war. They stood up. It's like standing up to a bully.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things is we have to take into account too is that there was a time where black women raised their sons for survival in terms of how they dealt with white people.
Yes.
So that psychology has been put in many black men's head.
Yes.
To kind of like bow down subconsciously. So that's an issue. And then some women have continued that behavior, even unknowingly at times, teaching their sons to be subjected to the powers that be if you want to live. You know, it's like having to talk when you have sons, black men, having to talk with your sons in survival.
Yes.
I never had to talk with my sons and stuff like that. I taught my sons how to behave in a certain way. I had one encounter with a police officer with my sons once. My sons loved the train. I took them down to Staten Island to go ride on that train, and they were fooling around doing something. I was in the main area. And then my youngest son came and told me, "Hey, Daddy, the cops are messing with Cameron." So I went over to see what was going on, and the cop was trying to ask him for ID. Now, my son was 12 years old, but he was already 6 foot. So I walked over and I told him, I said, "Look, this is my son." I said, "Cameron, step behind me." I said, "You don't have to ask my son nothing. What do you want? What do you need?" He said, "No, I just wanted to make sure he was." I said, "He's with somebody." And I shut down the conversation. I took my sons and I walked away. But that's showing your son the demonstration of authority and power and how to deal with men of authority. See, there's one thing. The scripture says, don't yield to a man of authority. Because once you yield once, you'll have to yield again.
A year again. And you know what, Lee? That's always have been my argument, like far as like, because I think it's very detrimental for us to be raised by our mothers only, because they
Yeah, we're being
raised us.
raised to be submissive.
Yeah, we raised in the feminine mind. We have a feminine mind state. That's the reason why when you say we killing over clothes, what real man even worrying about? Like even when we talk about alpha male masculinity, using all of those words, I never heard no other race of men talk like that. And I was raised, if you got to always holler that you're grown, you're not grown. So if you
Because
walk
we're
around here
fight.
always got to holler that you masculine and you alpha, that means you not.
Well, it's because we're trying to find ourselves as a people. So much of manhood was taken away from us. We don't
Hmm.
really have a culture. What we have as culture is the throwaways, right? What
Right.
we call soul food is 100 years ago, 150 years ago, that was throwaway. That was what the white man wouldn't eat.
Yes.
So, I mean, and we have now made it something that is now delicious, right? But I think
Yes.
that's why I said we have to re-examine our culture and build, take the things that are not good, get rid of it, and build the things that are good and go forward.
And you know what? And you know what, Lee? You know what my conclusion? And this might work for a lot of people. I think we need to go outside of America. I mean, not listen to their history books, not listen to nothing that they taught us. Because of course, if they capture us, they're not going to teach us something to be more empowered than them. So they're gonna dumb us down. But especially when we talk about the roles of black men and black women, the roles. Do you think we need to go back in like African places and see how like those men used to treat their women, how women used to treat? Because we can't operate in something that we never saw. A lot of people say it should be natural, but our natural has been reversed. So we
Well, I
not
think
acting from a natural state.
well, I think we have enough education to be able to examine the problem. With regard to going back to Africa, I think Africa is very disheveled. You have 56 countries and they have very few alliances and they war against each other all the time. I was just
Mhm.
reading yesterday where Burkina Faso just had an overthrow by the military arm. And matter of fact, I used to live in Burkina Faso for a while. I was in Bamako, Burkina Faso, Guinea, uh, Niger, I was in like 5 different countries over there for a time. Matter of fact, when I was getting ready to go into Conakry, that's when they had the revolution in 2010. And good thing I was friends with the one of the border guards, and he was like, "Hey, you don't want to go in there now." And like 2 hours later, it was just a big mess, But what I would say is that we can do a cultural review of all nations on the planet and choose what we want and reconstruct the best parts that we want to utilize in our society. This thing
Mhm.
about wanting to build a wheel from scratch, we need to get off of that shit. People building cars every day. And I'm using cars as a metaphor. Nobody
Mhm.
goes back to learn how to build a new engine all over again. They use the blueprint from what already exists, and then they try to improve upon what exists. They don't go from scratch. And we as a people, we want to do everything from scratch. We need to learn from others, other
Mhm.
cultures that have not been destroyed like ours,
Yes,
who have not,
sir.
and take the good that we want to accept for
Mhm.
ourselves and build and go forth with that. Women, I think women know how to be feminine. It's their natural way. If you have a daughter, watch your daughter at 3, 4 years old, man. She knows how to jump up in daddy's lap, stroke him, kiss him behind the neck, give him a hug, and then ask him for a gift or whatever she wants. Kids know it. They know it. It's just a learned behavior that they practice and that their mother tell them what to and what not to as they grow when they get like 7, 8, 9 years old and they're starting to, change in their mental and in their physical. And then these things are start putting in their head when boys are starting to talk to them. So it's a behavior that we can easily change if we as a group of people decide that we want to change it. We don't have to leave the country for that per se, but we can look at other countries and see what are some of the things that we would like to incorporate. It's like a recipe and build a new recipe for our culture that we're going to make going forward. But we have to have some standards. We have to have moral standards and ethical standards and how we will behave as men and hold our women to standards on how we want them to behave, and the women will capitulate. I mean, women find ways to do the things that men want them to do, no matter where you are. Well, you think women of other countries don't fight back and resist and argue, and they do it,
Right.
but it's only to a point. We have allowed women to go to the degree that it has gone, and then we blame it on society. I'm just not the kind of man that I blame things in society, because I live in a society too, and that shit don't affect me.
And you know what, Lee? I'm gonna say this last little point. When we talk about, like, even though I'm having these conversations, I had to think about every woman that I've been with. Usually, they start submitting to me after the sex. After I have
But
sex
that's
with them,
natural. That's natural for a woman.
right?
That's in
And
their
so I
nature.
never really had, like, even ones that I had relationships with. I never really had a problem with them treating me anytime. It was just our roles was naturally happening. I didn't never had to worry about this woman treat me less than, like, treat me like I'm a beta male, or treat me, or I'm treating her like she telling her to submit. It was just naturally happening. Like, women was naturally like, I don't want to keep bringing up those type of topics, but like when women was giving me money, large amount of money, it wasn't that I was a pimp or nothing like that. It was that these women seen something in me, and then once they believed in me, I actually showed and proved. So it made them trust me. I
Well,
want to say that. Go
no, go
ahead.
ahead, finish. No,
I
what I
want
was gonna.
Go ahead.
No, you got the floor.
I wouldn't say that they. I wouldn't say that they looked at me like I looked at them like they was weak, because it's some men that they won't do that for. It's a lot of men that
True.
they won't do that for. They believed in me, and I didn't have a dime. But it's a difference between being a bum. It's two different type of bums. Yeah, I might not got nothing, but I got the mind, and I got the potential, and I got the means to get me out of that state. Whereas I know a bum that's got a lot of money, but he think like a bum. He spend all his money on clothes, rims, cars to show off, because he don't got that confidence. And before you know it, he broke out and passed him up.
Well, well, one, I mean, that's kind of twofold, because that's just a man that may lack self-confidence or persuasiveness with women, and he used the money to accomplish what he may lack in other ways. But
Yes.
number one, I don't have a problem with a man spending money on a woman or spending money to get a woman, because money is a tool, and if you're a carpenter, you need hammers. If you want to knock nails into woods. If you want to be successful in the world, you need to have money. And you want to be successful with women, you can use your money to get the woman you want. Now, with regard to a marriage, that may be a little different. If you just want to have sex,
Right.
I use the money to have sex. That way you can get a beautiful woman that's a 9, 8. I don't know about a 10, because I've never had a 10. At least I don't think so. But you can get beautiful women using your money, by the places you take them or whatever. Or if you just want to buy the woman outright. I've bought women outright, but not people that I met like in clubs and shit like that. When I meet a woman in a club or at a restaurant or a fine place, something like that, if I'm talking to her and she's feeling me, I'll just say, hey, let's get out of here. Let's go someplace else. And if she's with it, I just grab her by the hand and we bounce. But take a woman to a good hotel. I've always taken women to classy hotels, because I like a hotel with a safe, fingerprint safe. You just put your wallet, put your money, put your watch in there, and when you finish, I never usually spend a night with women like that. You go home and you tell her, there's continental breakfast in the morning. It's on the room. Don't worry about it. I'll leave a message. Let the concierge know the lady is still upstairs and she'll leave, before checkout time by 11 o'clock. I might leave a 400 or 500 on the table. Take a taxi. Buy yourself something nice, and that's it. But I had the money to do that, so it didn't really matter for me. But at the same time, I could rap to a woman too. The woman I want to marry or make a girlfriend, I rap to her, because I need to get in her head. But the
Right.
woman I just want to fuck, I'm not going to spend that kind of time rapping to a girl, taking out on dates, 3, 4 dates to try to get the coochie. By the time you be rapping to her for 3, 4 weeks, I already hit it. I'm gone.
Right. Right. You're right. But I did that. Like I said, when I was 18, I spent up to $200 on multiple women, and I just think $400 or $500 is too much. But I do understand you leave. I do understand. Like, okay, some men is different.
I mean, when you
It just take
make
away from me.
thousands of
It
dollars a
take away
month,
from my pride.
$500. I mean, I'll go out to dinner with me and my buddies, and we'll spend, three or four of us, we'll spend $2,000 just food and drink. You know, a Remy El Presidente costs $125 a shot, and I might have three or four of those. So, I mean, that's just how we
Mhm.
live. So, I mean, it's and the woman that is in your presence in those places, when you take a woman and you transfer her into a whole different social circle, she's like a fish out of water, man. She'll hold your arm like it's a vice grip because she doesn't know how to move where she's at yet. So one of the things as a man in showing leadership, you need to be able to introduce your woman to different circles, and that's another way of exerting power over people. Take them out of their comfort zone and bring them into new places that they don't understand yet how to move. But you don't do that for any woman. You do that for women that you have an interest in being with or having her in your life for some period of time. A woman
Basically
that you
teaching her
just
something new.
right teaching her. Well, you're introducing her to ways in which a social circle that you will be in over time, that she will learn how to move in those circles because, like I said earlier, you may be in. I remember one time our company had a big dinner at the Museum of Art on Fifth Avenue, 51st Street, and this
Hmm.
was all the top execs. So when you bring your woman to a place like that, it's usually uh, four couples sitting at a big table. That's eight people, a big round table. So you could be sitting with a director, you could be sitting with a vice president, you could be sitting with a global manager, global operations. You could be sitting with whoever. You don't know who you're going to be sitting with until you get there, and you and your wife will be sitting there as well. So the woman that you're going to have, that you're going to introduce the different circles and way of being, she has to know how to move when she get in circles like that. She can't be having no ghetto conversation. She can't be yelling and screaming over people. She has to know how to comport herself. So these are things as a man you need to learn how to train your woman how to move, and you do that incrementally by taking her to different social circles before you take her to something big, because you don't want to drop her in a place and you know she's uncomfortable and she doesn't know how to react. Somebody say something that she might take as an offense, and she might go off, right?
Hmm.
There's a way where you have to learn how to deal with offense in public, especially if it's business related. You can't go off and just off somebody. Yeah, you might look like a bad guy at the moment, but guess what? You just derailed your future, and you might have knocked $10 million out of your pocket because you're gonna get fired tomorrow.
Absolutely, I agree. Well, thanks for this conversation, JR. You the
Likewise.
man, Lee. I appreciate you two gentlemen.
All
Thank
right.
you.
I'm gonna have the secretary send over the invoice for the consultation.
Huh?
I said I'm gonna have the secretary send over the invoice for Lee.
Oh man.
I'm not laughing. I'm
Good.
serious.
Yeah, definitely a good
Yeah.
conversation, Jay. I'm
Oh
very
yeah,
impressed
thank
with you.
y'all.
All right.
You surprise me from time to time when I listen to you.
Oh really? So you be listening to me too?
No, I saw you twice. I think I saw you on Lapeef the other day, and then I saw you on the show with Kay and Kayla. When I
Uh-huh.
saw you with Kay and Kayla, you kind of threw me off. But then when I saw you on the Lapeef the other day, I liked a lot of the things you had to say with regarding to your points of view. I was very impressed. Actually, I was very surprised. I'm like, you were the only one that was making sense.
When you talk, okay, when you talking about the Kay and Kayla show, which show are you talking about? The stepdad one?
Hey,
I
Jay,
think, yeah,
he's
I think
giving
you
you a
might have said.
confidence. Just take it. You're just trying to do so much of a deep dive into it, man. Just take it. So,
No, because if
what
it's
was it
something I
exactly
want
did I
Yeah.
say?
I need to correct,
Okay,
I'm willing
okay.
to correct.
So, if there's anything that I should change, Lee, okay,
Well, I
okay.
think just be yourself, bro. I like you shoot from the hip. You're very
Yeah, oh
honest
yeah,
with your perspectives. I like that. You're honest, and I think you come across more credible when you speak that way, because people know that you're not putting on a face.
right.
And I think today, as black men, we really need to be more forthright in the way we speak and more direct. And that's one of the reasons why I think so many men get, and I'm not going to speak for the women because I'm not a woman, but why think so many men get emotional when they hear Kevin Samuel speak. They don't watch him, but yet they have all this critique. I'm like, men don't think that way. The scripture says, hear a man out before you respond. So
And
if
you
you don't
know,
even know what the man talk about, how you have a comment?
and you know what, Lee, I want to say this because I be saying this stuff a lot, that how we is raised by women too. This is the reason why I feel like it's a lot of crime. It's hard to talk to a lot of my black
Brothers.
men peers and brothers in the community, because like when I paid attention to things, it's like we would get mad if we get called a nigga. I mean the N word, instead
Right.
of getting mad of how we getting treated like one. Like we get treated like those, we get treated like an N all day, but as long as they don't call us one. So we more mad at the word, but not mad at the actions. Like, for an example, like it was these females that I just know. And we were just talking about stuff.
Because those are
And
emotional triggers.
yeah, they got mad at the person. They got mad at me, right, Lee? They got mad at me because somebody in their family got killed. But they more mad at me for speaking on what the person that got deleted, where he went wrong. But they more mad at me because I'm calling it out.
Right.
But you don't got the same smoke for the person that actually did it.
That's a big problem in our community. I see it all the time. Absolutely.
I'm glad.
It's like, in terms of like getting the bag, I think, that's something that we really should look at, finessing the powers that be instead of finessing one another. We're big at finessing one another, but I think we're weak when it goes to try to go up against the powers that be. We get scared.
Yes, we do.
And I'm not
Because we was
intimidated.
taught that way. Like we say, our mothers, we gotta feed, like a lot of us, we keep talking about we masculine and alpha and all this other stuff, but when it boils down to it, we very feminine. We the only
Yes, we
man
have
that
a
submit, we the only man that submit to another man in that way. Like they control how we they the one taught us how we should treat our women, how we should raise our kids. They do it every day. They taught us how we should be a man in this world. They taught us, and we submit to that. And then we would, if you think about getting big headed and going your own way, we would cut you down.
true. And that's what I would say is, we know what have happened in the past. Let 2022 be a reset and a new going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think black men, if we start writing our own script on how we will be moving in this society in due time, that will cause a shift in how we interact with one another. I think on YouTube, as brothers, we need to be able to, if you have a disagreement and you have a point of view, air your point of view, but don't make it personal. Why we always have to be the ambassador of a point of view to like want to chop somebody head off, like you're the knight. You want to chop somebody head off because he has a different opinion than you. So what? I mean, lions can walk down the street and look each other in the eye and pass each other and growl and keep it moving. We don't have to get into a skirmish to kill one another. And with black men, it's like we can't look at another black man that's confident, that's on his game, that is not intimidated. Immediately, if we see that kind of display of confidence or masculinity, we must challenge it. Why? That's another brother that's confident just like you. There should be more of us.
And
why
that's
we got to delete that man?
And that's the thing, Lee. We only do that to our each other. But I want to say when y'all was talking about leadership and stuff like this, and I just feel like a real masculine boss, he wouldn't mind. A boss wouldn't mind letting another man lead. Masculinity, a true masculine man wouldn't mind sending another man lead. Like he don't want to be the one, because he would put like this. If I'm a leader, I'm gonna try to put like how Anton and JR and them doing. They bringing all us black men up for us to be leaders, and that's some real boss stuff. That's the boss.
That's what leaders do. Leaders lead, and they train
create
and
more
create
leaders.
new leaders. Exactly.
Yes.
If you're so insecure that You kill every leader that comes up next to you, you're not really a leader. You just in the position and you don't know how you got there. But now that I'm here, ain't nobody gonna knock me off my pedestal. I'm killing everybody that comes as a challenge. And that's not a real leader. A real leader looks for other men that have the capacity to lead and the
Hmm.
capability, and they nourish them and give them guidance on how to lead and become better than themselves. That's what you want to do when you, as a good leader,
Hmm.
you want to create leaders that are better than you. I mean, that's real leadership. And I think as black men, we just
Absolutely.
have to, we need to think different.
You right, Mr. I mean, you right, Lee. We do have to think different, and then we got to grab our balls. If we want our women to submit to us and look at us and respect us, we got to give them something to respect. They can't
That's
watch. We
true.
can't tell them submit to us, and they watching their men supposed to be their protectors submitting to another man. We land on our backs getting screwed just as well as they is,
Well,
and then you
I would
asking them
say,
to
I would
submit.
say this: don't run too much with that, because in all societies, men submit one to another all the time. The only problem I think we have is because we were forced into submission by slavery, and we're at a subclass within the society. But slavery is no longer legal like that. So, you know, we don't have to
I,
be carrying that trope continuously. Like, we could build new things to move forward and put ourselves in position of power. There are black men leading in different things in this society all over the place. The
mhm.
thing is that they don't get the public recognition, and we don't see them on a regular basis.
And you rightly, I want to say this one more thing. I don't mean to go backwards because we moving forward with this conversation, but this is just something that I've been wanting to get off my chest, especially when I be hearing people talking about, well, you never been through slavery and all this other stuff. You know why we not getting beat we not getting treated the way our ancestors getting treated? Is because we are the results of what they were trying to implement our ancestors, our grandparents to become. We are the results, so they don't got to beat us because we exactly how they wanted us to be. We submit to them. We put them on a pedestal. We everything that they wanted, that they used to beat our ancestors. Like for an example, when they told us that we couldn't vote, we had to sit in the back of we had to sit in the back of the bus. Everything that we was forced to do, we do it willingly now. We don't vote. We go to the back of the bus. We
Well, we
we
do
don't go
vote.
to get black men don't really get an education. So all the stuff that we force, the black woman mess with white men now willingly. Now they don't got to force it no more like they used to. They mess with them willingly. So everything that was forced, they was forcing us to do back then through violent or all this type of other ways. We doing it so willingly.
Well, that's why I said we need to have a a change mindset,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like you have a dog. You can train a dog to behave in a certain way, and after you got the behavior trained in him, you could take the leash off, and he can run around, and he'll do whatever you tell him.
And we like the dogs with no leashes.
That's right. Who are the dogs with no leashes? Back then they call it yokes of iron, right? Those big metal stuff that used to be on you, or chains on your feet and whatnot.
And you
But I
know what?
mean, the point is that we know the history. At what
Right.
point we're going to stop having the conversation and
Mm-hmm.
start taking steps to change things? I'm solutions oriented. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
wallowing and discussing the same shit
Yeah,
over and
absolutely.
over. That's really not me.
And you rightly, I want to tell them, a lot of my brothers that's successful, financially successful, just because my chain is crusty gray and yours diamond or the other one is gold, at the end of the day, we still got chains on our necks. You can't do what you want to do just as well as I can't. You can't behave like they can. They can get away with
Yes, you
certain
can.
stuff,
Yes,
huh?
you can. Yes, you can.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yes, you
know that.
can. You can do whatever the hell you want. You just have to set your mind to be able to do it. Trust me. I know people who do. I know black men who raise sons and don't raise them to be afraid of police, and they're moving in this earth in a whole different way. They don't act like I see other black men behave. What you put in your mind is how you're going to behave.
Mm.
Power, respect power. When the police roll up on you, you deal with him for his authority. Don't try to trip on him and read the man the law. What the hell is wrong with you? If I'm
Right.
a police officer and you're gonna try to tell me the codes of law, that shit gonna piss me the fuck off.
Yeah. You right.
Just ask him what he needs, what is the problem, give him what he needs, and be off.
Exactly.
I've been stopped by state troopers. I mean, I remember back in 1984, I was coming back from the Michael Jackson 5 concert in Chicago. You might know about that. You was a baby back then, JR. Man, I'm speeding to get back to Rockford, Illinois. I'm doing like 90 in my Supra. State trooper stopped me. I told my wife, she wasn't my wife at the time. We were just dating. I said, keep your eyes out because I'm gonna get us home in less than an hour. And I was flying. Sure enough, trooper stopped me, got my ID and everything, my license. He said, you know, you was going 110 miles an hour. I said, really? I said, I didn't know that. I said, but I'm trying to get home. My wife is tired. I'd like to take her home. So he said, well, we're going to have to take you in because you're 30 miles over the speed limit. I'm like, well, she doesn't drive. And he said, where do you live? I told him where I live. He said, okay, I'm going to follow you. He followed me to my house. I parked the car in the driveway, went upstairs, changed my clothes, put on some jeans and sneakers and a jacket. Then he took me to the joint. I told my wife, call Randy and give him my PIN number to my bank card and go get me $1,000 tomorrow. And matter of fact, he went with me to 3 ATMs to try to pull the money out. And for whatever reason, those machines was on maintenance and I couldn't get no money. And I had to go to jail. But I mean, now that was a black officer, so maybe he showed a little bit of leniency with me, right?
Right.
But still, I see black officers mistreat black men all the time.
Oh
But the
yes.
point is, I dealt with the officer with respect. I had a conversation with him, and he was gracious. And I did go to jail. My man came and bailed me out, and I wound up paying. The ticket was like $300-400 for going 30 miles over the speed limit, and that was that. But I think sometimes we bring problems to ourselves unnecessarily by antagonizing people. Some people have stressful jobs, and you can make it better when you have the encounter, or you can make it worse. It's like customer service. You call up somebody because you have a problem, you start cursing them out. Are they going to be more likely to help you? Or are they going to be like, you know what? I'm gonna jerk this motherfucker off.
We picked up those traits from our mothers, Lee. That combativeness, especially against authority and stuff like that. And this why we have a problem with the black men authority, because we was raised by women to challenge everything.
But what I would say as a man, once you become a man, you're responsible for yourself. Stop blaming shit on your mom. My mom did some things that I didn't like either. When I was 19, I confronted my mother and had a conversation with the things that I believed that she did wrong when raising me. You know what she said? I did the best I can. I left it at that. But after that, whatever things that was a problem in me, I looked for ways to improve it and change myself so those things did not become a crutch for me in my life. And I think we need to stop making excuses for ourselves. That's why when Kevin used the term self-awareness is 2022, I think that's a very good statement, because I think as black men, we got to become more aware of the things that are chains and balls that drags us back, and develop new ways to move forward and take those chains and balls off of our legs, and stop blaming society, and stop blaming your mom, and stop blaming not having a dad. Shit, my dad died when I was 7. So what? I mean, I love him and I missed him. And when I was a teenager, it was the worst part of my life because I wanted him there. But I had my dad's brothers. I had 9 uncles. So they were there for me. And I had my grandfather who raised my dad. So in a way, to me, I got the same raising that my dad got. So I was very fortunate. I didn't get the mistakes that my dad would have did to me as a young father. I got the knowledge of a 69, 70-year-old man raising me, and that put me in a whole different mindset.
Oh yeah, I needed that correction, Lee.
All
Not a
right,
problem.
Jay Prince.
All
Bring
right.
the
Thank you
show
very
to
much.
an end.
Thanks, Lee. Thanks,
All
JR.
right.
No, thank you for the audience. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Much love.
There was a comment. Anthony Charles Bay says speeding is not a crime. I don't know if we have anybody that's in the comments that knows that law or not, but from my understanding, if you go over a certain mileage, it is considered like a felony. It's
Miles per
considered
hour depends on how fast you're going.
right in
Most
within a
states have a
speed
limit
limit.
for highway. It's a highway safety law. So I'm not sure what
Yeah,
he's referring to,
yeah,
but it's a highway safety law.
yeah. Like I know
And
up in Illinois they do have it. I got it
yeah,
when I was I used to drive back and forth from Champaign
Uh
to
huh.
Chicago because I went to
Yeah.
college out there, and they pulled me over. And he said, the fact that you was over 30, I can impound your car right now. But he just
Yep.
wound up taking my license, gave me a ticket. And when I went there, it was my first time, and they told me they can get me off. I had to pay like a $300 or $400 fine. It was
Yeah.
something ridiculous. I was like, "Damn! Like,
Yeah.
are you
Yeah.
serious?"
Yeah. That was the first
I
time I
couldn't.
had to pay a
Yeah,
fine that
I
big
couldn't
too.
believe it.
I was
So,
like, damn.
it
Yeah.
is at least in the state of Illinois. And you said you was in Chicago, so maybe it might not be everywhere, but I do know that Illinois
Well, New
did
York
at one
State have
point.
all states have speed laws. I mean, that's traffic control. If you don't, people be driving like crazy. Why do you think they have, those traffic bumps and all these different things to, to kind of slow people down? Because your nature is to take it. And I
Well,
was young
well,
too.
he
I
said
mean,
it's
I
a
was.
code, so I don't know the difference between the code and law.
Oh, okay. A code law, I mean, it's punishable by either a fine or in jail. So I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to get into the distinction, whether it's a law or whether it's a code, but it still is to manage the society and behavior in terms of how when you're driving a vehicle that's 4,000 pounds and you're driving it at 100 miles an hour, if you're not experienced at driving, that's reckless behavior. And for me, I mean, it was somewhat reckless, but it was 4 o'clock in the morning. So there was no other traffic out on the road. So I took liberty, right? I wouldn't do that in a crowded, in a more heavily trafficked highway or anything like that. I wouldn't be that irresponsible. But the point is that, stopping a vehicle that's moving that fast takes time. And if something jumps out in the road in front of you, you're just really not going to have enough time, excuse me, to react to that and, manageable control the situation. You can wind up deleting your own life or a passenger with you or whatever you might hit if they're, other people. So, whether it's a code or whether it's a law, it's something that is used to mitigate reckless behavior. And so, things like that happens. As young men, I think young men challenge things all the time. And I moved reckless when I was a kid in certain ways too. I mean, you buy a brand new sports car, you're gonna drive it fast. It's just,
Yeah, I know,
that's
absolutely.
just,
Yeah, just can't get caught.
yeah,
And Lee, it's been
yeah.
a great conversation. But before we get off,
Uh
the
huh.
link is pinned to the top. Make sure you guys click it. We are live in Houston, April the 23rd. Make sure you guys get your tickets. It is a capacity limit. So if you do not get your ticket in a timely manner, you might miss out on the opportunity to see our first live show. Join us as we make history, April 23rd, Houston. Save
Awesome.
the date. What you say, Lee? I didn't mean to cut y'all.
No, I said awesome.
Yeah. I appreciate you, man. Tune in to Sage Talk. You got any final thoughts real quickly?
Well, I would say that this was a very engaging conversation. I like the fact that brothers decided to come up and pose some questions. I think, my focus with regard to coming on the network and adding my voice to the conversation is really to help focus mainly on brothers to help maybe provide them with some information that they didn't have if they didn't have a father in their life or an uncle, and to give them more perspective about how masculine men behave and how they should think and how they should move in the world, and particularly in the United States, and learn to become more solutions oriented as opposed to just talking about what the problems are. You know, you'll always find yourself to be in a better shape if you solve problems than if you talk about them. And I think we've been talking about a lot of the problems with women, society, uh, social media, all of these things I think can work to our benefit if we look at where the opportunities may lie, as opposed to just complain about the experiences that we're happening. Now, I'm not saying that things should not be brought to their attention because that's how you find solutions. You must first isolate what the problem is and discuss it. But at the same time, too, you can identify the problem. You can also work on the solution to move forward. If power and accomplishment is something that we lack in society, we should move towards doing that. Building a business middle class for Black men, or upper class or elite class, we should do that. I don't see why there shouldn't be. The United States operates on a caste system, and we should not be at the bottom. We're the builders of this country, so we should be at the top, or at least at the top middle. So that's what I like to see.
Much respected, man. We appreciate you guys tuning in to Sage Talk on the Lapeef Network. Make sure you guys hit that like button on your way out. Catch us in Houston again, April 23rd. Cop your tickets. There's a capacity limit once again. Hit that join button if you want to become a member. Go green. Shout out to all the members in the chat. It's been another great show. Catch Sage Talk next Saturday, 2 o'clock Central Time. And we out.
Wow, super audience.
Make sure you guys hit that like button. Click that link at the top of the description. Get your ticket. We live in Houston, baby. Shout out to the new member. Shout out to the new member. So you went green. Appreciate you, LC. All right, y'all. We out.